So we'll start this meeting on September 5th, 2024, the select board. As usual, I will start with, I get to read this at the beginning of each meeting. And in an effort to make our meetings more effective and efficient, the select board has made a change to the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens or others wishing to address the select board during a meeting may do so during the public comment portion of the meeting. This portion of the public comment is for items that are not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. All speakers will be heard once before people are given a second opportunity to speak. Once the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the public will be able to speak if input is needed during a portion of the meeting, but otherwise all comments from stuff discussed during the meeting will be held public comment at the end of the meeting. So starting, we start with public to be heard. You need to announce your name and clear enough so that we can understand for the minutes, and then you have the floor.
I have a question.
What?
With the new fancy microphone, are we asking people to come up, or do they just get to speak from their
I
seat?
don't know.
They actually don't have to, because if they do sit up right underneath it, it picks it up too loud, so she can hear everybody from the audience.
So do we as a board, this is brand new for us, the
Yeah.
fancy mic, so do we want to just have people sit there if it's just public to be heard?
What happened? What was the procedure
They actually came up,
6 years ago?
they actually came up
They
and
came
sat
up
at the
sat.
table.
Even before the microphones.
Right, they came up so everybody could, hear.
I wasn't here. I started post.
And post all that, yeah. I don't know, what I do like about someone coming forward is it's a little more like, okay, it's your time, you're the one talking,
can.
we're listening to you, and everybody else is just watching.
Yeah.
But if that's gonna mess up Angeliki, I think I'm just one person, that's my.
Well,
Well, I mean, I think when people have presentations, they're gonna be there anyway, but that's just gonna happen.
It's get fixed.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So what
so
do
they
you wanna
can come
do?
up to the
Let's
table.
have her come up,
All right, that's what I feel like, is have folks come up.
We're gonna ask people to come up and sit at the,
but you don't have to talk loudly. So you ask the question, you can come up first with yes, you.
So my name is Eileen Haupt. I live on Old Pump Road, just a couple of doors past the Palmers. So I'm commenting on the parking. No, actually specifically the letter that was addressed to us, saying that the plan was to put no parking signs on our side of the street. And my husband and I are asking that you not implement that plan. It doesn't address the problem. Nobody parks on our side of the road anyway. So it doesn't do anything. I thought I might describe from our point of view what the issues are. There's actually two separate problems, but related. The first one is probably the one that you get the most complaints about, and that's the blocking of Old Pump Road on both sides of the road. That only happens down at Palmer's and just a little bit past Palmer's because, for three reasons. The first one is on the right-hand side of the road where their designated parking is. People don't pull in far enough sometimes. And then the same thing on the left-hand side of the road where they have their barn and their driveway. The third reason is people try to continue that pattern on the left-hand side of the road past the Palmers where there's no room for them to. They're trying to continue this pattern of parking perpendicular, and then they continue it when there's no drive. And that's what causes the problem. So it's those three things that people just don't pull in far enough. I can send you a picture of somebody, just to give you an example, who pulled in behind their van this weekend and just stuck out in the middle of the road. So that's one problem. The other problem is the one that we deal with mostly and as residents is, and that's the constant turning around in our driveway and doing 3-point turns in front of our house, and the idling this summer is really, and it used to be occasional and it was sort of like tolerable, but now it's just constant. Almost every day it's like a constant thing. And I'm out on my front porch, in the summer, and the idling is noisy. And so it's really just kicked up this summer. I just want to add too that the Palmers have implemented a couple of changes that my husband and I requested or suggested, and they have implemented them, and it has made a difference. And I want to, just give them credit because they have listened to us. And, but unfortunately, this summer has just been such an increase. And we're happy for their success. We love the business but those are the two issues. So anyway, the signs on the side of the street don't address any of them because nobody's parking on our side of the street. It's across the street, and it's their behavior that we deal with on a constant basis. And then, like I said, the separate part is the blocking of the road, and that's down by Palmer's. It's not by our, by our side of the road. So the signs, they're not going to address the problem, and they're only going to add like an eyesore, something that we don't want on our front of our house. So,
Thank you for your comments.
okay, thanks.
Quick question.
Sure.
You said that you guys had talked to Palmer's and asked them to do a couple of suggested or whatever, a couple of, what, do you know what those things were that you suggested and they
so-
did?
Yeah, a few years ago, their employees were parking right across the street from our house. And so the customers kind of come and go, and there's busy times and then there's not so busy times. So we're not looking at cars, but when they park their cars there, we were looking at it like however long they work. So, that was one, we just don't, it was just not necessary. It seemed like they should be parking down, further to their, closer to their business, and they have. And that's really made a difference because when, it's not so busy, we don't have to look at cars. The other one was the idling. They added, just this summer, they added to their website, reminder about the Vermont law. And then the parking, the overflow parking, they have a sign. I guess they got permission to use the school parking lot. And, but that hasn't stopped the parking down by us. And like I said, it was tolerable at one point. It's just really kicked up, this summer. So.
And so by idling, they're really just leaving their cars running, or they're sitting?
They're going to get their ice cream and leaving their dog in the car, or which we don't want to see the dogs overheat, but that's but that's just something that we experience on our end.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting out on my porch and I hear this. Somebody just did it like this weekend, so that's. But it's
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Is that it?
Yeah, we'll talk more about
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
All right, any other comments of public to be heard?
I don't know if what my comment is fits under
Can you
road
please-
policy.
Can you please state your name?
For the record.
Oh, sorry, Nancy Sham.
Okay.
I live on Old Pump Road. So I see these two agenda items that have to do with roads. So I don't know if I fit in there or not.
Okay, good point.
They're gonna, we will talk about Old Pump under updates. So that we will actually address some of your concerns.
Yeah, but I don't.
But you might want to wait till 10 o'clock at night.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
if you want to just
Go home.
talk at us,
Sure.
and so you have to wait till like
Take your
10 o'clock.
take it.
Yeah, like
yeah,
your input
and-
now, we can.
And your name?
I don't get a.
You feel free to sit right here.
Fine.
What is your name again?
Nancy Sham,
Champ, S-H?
S-H-A-M-P, and I live at 250 Old Pump Road. I've been there since 1986. And have watched over these years the deterioration of that bridge. And start off with thank you for patching the north and south side of the bridge today and scraping. That was really fortuitous. But it's not going to last because you can't put asphalt in a dirt hole. And maybe it'll last till Monday, but the first rain it's going to be washed away. And it's been so bad this last month or so that there's not even a way to kind of maneuver your car around it. And I'm in a walker now, and hopefully I won't be in it for long. But I would not be able to go for a walk in that direction, without outfalling or something happening, because it's not traversable even for people who don't use walkers. So I had just a real quick couple of questions. There used to be a sign when we first moved there, a load limit, weight limit on the bridge. It's not there anymore. And of course, watch constantly big heavy trucks come and go. And I'm sure that that has led to the continual deterioration of the road, and maybe something you all could look into. That since there is no road limit, that means anybody's gonna go across there. So the asphalt is gonna be nice for a few days, but it's not a permanent solution. And I'm wondering if you all have thought about a permanent solution, and what would that solution be? So I'm just bringing that out. You don't have to answer that right.
I can actually answer it for you if you'd like.
Yes.
So one thing that I've got is I've got an engineer coming out to inspect the bridge. He is supposed to be here tomorrow or the beginning of next week to tell me what the bridge is, if it just needs repaving or the membrane or whatever, he's gonna tell me what it needs to be. The other thing is we are going to pave that, come up a little bit more on both sides with the aprons. We're gonna go more up the hill on both ends of the bridge. But that paving has to be done in the spring because the paving companies now have been all booked. There's nobody that's gonna wanna come out and just do that little bit. They'd like to wait till the spring to, come out and do that, plus another project that we've got going on. So if that helps. I do have, you're always more than welcome to reach out to me. I have the highway guys on alert to get out there and fix those holes as soon as you guys call me. So I am trying to stay on top of that for you guys.
So I'm gonna assume nobody has been calling over this last month.
Oh, they have. Yep, they have. Yep, they have.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But the road crew.
Yes, I've been trying to stay on top of them to
We're
like.
still dealing, we're still
Yes.
sorting out, like Fitzsimonds Road, Bridge is out, we have.
Correct,
Oh, I know.
Roads that are worse than Old
correct,
Bridge.
yes.
So from what you just described about raising, that means water is going to flow down on both sides, and we'll need to have some way to drain.
Where it
off the
runs
bridge.
off that bridge, yes.
Yeah.
And they'll tell us all about that. Once the bridge inspector gets the report back to me, he'll have all of that information in there as to what he believes the paving, should look like coming up into that bridge.
This is good news. I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear
and
it.
part of the issue with the paving is because of all the flooding and all the roads that had to be rebuilt last year and all the roads and stuff that have to be rebuilt across the state this year. Paving companies are straight out and
Yeah,
aren't
for
just
sure.
doing a little job.
I know
for
you
sure.
can't even hire a house painter or a roofer.
Right,
Paul, since we're already into this, and that's
Yes.
one question, maybe the end of the conversation is.
yeah.
Is there anything between putting asphalt into the potholes over and over and over and over because that has happened?
Yeah,
And between that and springtime complete overhaul, like, I mean, we just have to keep filling it in?
as far as I've, have spoken with Jacob, that's the best thing that they can do right now. And until we hear back from the bridge inspector and he says, hey, you really need to tend to this ASAP, then the best thing that Jacob can do is, when it's gotten
He's killing.
hopefully not as bad as what it has,
Yeah.
people calling, letting us know, hey, it's getting bad. We send them over there and patch as best we can.
So whether there's something between now and a full bridge overhaul in the spring is kind of depends on what, is it Tyler who's going over there?
No, it's actually the state.
State engineer. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a state and bridge inspector. Yeah.
So is it costing our town for the asphalt, and how much every time they have to do that, is that costing us?
I don't think it's costing as much, just it's a cold patch, so we just patch it up. We have a hot box that we use and the town's already has that. So the cold patch isn't as expensive. What's gonna be the costly is the repaving, or if there's more to the bridge that needs to be done.
The bridge itself is creating potholes in the bridge, not just being
Right,
out there.
So that's the thing where they talk about the membrane, like the top of the bridge, it's like the pavement and then it scrapes down to, now it's getting down to dirt. But what's underneath that, like the decking of the bridge? Could that be potentially, something wrong with it? Yeah.
Yeah, the patching done today was really nice. It was spread out
I saw
instead of
it.
just.
One little
putting
hole. I did
this
see
little
it,
hole.
yes.
It's one of the best it's ever
Oh,
been.
well, I'm glad. I'll have those two go back out and do it every time.
Exactly.
See? Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
All right, so just wanted to, I think that's all my questions.
Well, thank you for your comments.
you.
Next, are there, other people to speak, to be?
Yes.
Public?
Actually, I'm remote.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, how are you doing? My name is Carol Smith and I live on Alpine. There's a dog who lives on Willow, and the only way to leave Alpine is to go on Willow Lane. There's a dog on Willow Lane who's bitten at least 4 people. I'm one of them. The owner is not part of the solution. Considering this is an aggressive dog, her dogs get loose fairly often. Our new animal control officer, Olivia, she is doing basically nothing.
Well, thank you. We will, check with her and then, but if there is a bite, I mean, that needs to be reported to the select board anyway.
Okay, and I believe there's someone else here who wants to talk about the same thing.
Hey,
Hi
Carol,
there.
did you get in touch with, did Richard Bernstein get in touch with you for that dog bite?
Who's Richard Bernstein?
Our health
No,
officer.
it's not.
Oh, the
Yes,
town,
he-
yes, the town safety officer did get in touch with me.
Yes, so
Did he come
Richard
back again? Because he had resigned at one point.
He wanted to, until his term was up, which is the end of September.
Oh,
He was
okay.
gonna resign, but he has chosen to continue until. he
Oh,
can't
good.
anymore.
Because at one point, because we were doing things in April and he said he resigned.
So I think, I'm not sure, because I've transferred jobs, Carol, if Linda has gotten that report. So Richard should be filing a report with the state, and we should get a report of that dog bite as well.
Well, okay, my dog bite was not that recent, but this dog continues to bite. There's a number of us who are afraid to actually walk past that house. And like I said, there's a town safety officer doing, an animal control officer doing nothing.
Okay,
And I don't know if this is a matter that the police could get involved with.
No, we have to follow our pet ordinance.
So, hi there. My name is Stacy Jorshik, Raceway Road. Can you hear me?
yeah, go ahead.
So, I am the newest member of the Bitten by the Dog Club. And I guess my concern is I was bit last Thursday. And I was caught completely off guard. I've lived here for a very long time and hadn't had an experience like that. Reached out, was not aware of all the other individuals that had been bitten by this dog. Reached out to the animal control officer and had a lovely conversation with her. This was Thursday of last week. Was told by Olivia that she would be visiting the home and the dog needed to be quarantined. So through this whole week, I've had neighbors that have come to me because everybody's learning about this dog bite and people are sharing the same story. And so in a follow-up with Olivia today, and don't want to throw her under the bus, but was caught completely off guard that there probably wasn't that follow-up. The dog, I'm not sure if or is not quarantined. Sounds like she has a lot of cases and isn't sure which dog bite is which dog bite. But my concern and my question is this. The scenario that happened last Thursday was very unraveling for me. And I stopped dead in my tracks and didn't move. And the dog was extremely aggressive and kept on coming at me. And it was a period of time before the homeowner came out and brought her dog in and was very uncooperative. If I had been a child, and it's not my business to tell somebody how to run their business, but if I was a child and I was flailing around, that dog probably would have done some serious damage. So to find out that I'm like the 4th or the 5th person who's been bitten, I'm extremely frustrated about that. There's a couple of things that I would like to put to task. I'm assuming that when I called animal control and filed my complaint, that there's a process that happens to follow up with the homeowner if the dog is quarantined, to have the dog quarantined, and then what the results are from that afterwards. The other piece is, I'm assuming, since I'm not the only person that's been bitten by this dog, that there's records somewhere. And if there's not, then that's even more concerning. So I guess my question is a couple of things. I would like to have a written report of some kind that validates what the filing was for the report of the dog bite on Thursday, and then what action was taken. And then the other thing is to ensure that this doesn't happen to somebody else. I share the same concern. I'm nervous about, and I wasn't anywhere near their yard. Keep in mind, I was across the street. So once again, I say I was completely caught off guard. I had to go to the doctors, had to get a tetanus shot. They wanted to put me on antibiotic. They did ask if I called the police. I did not. So I guess in better understanding, how do we make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else? And how do I feel comfortable that the due process that was supposed to happen happened? And how do we make sure that this dog doesn't do this again to anyone? Because I'm afraid that it's going to be, if I hadn't stood still, I don't think that the dog would have backed down.
That's disconcerting. Thank you for the updates. There are things that the select board can do to take, and that includes putting the dog down. But we have to follow the process to do that.
Do you know the process on top of your head?
Not the top of my head, but because there has to be, you have to have an actually select board private meeting with the owner and the person who was bitten.
So, Catherine, I appreciate that statement, but I'm not confident. I felt very confident when I spoke with Olivia last Thursday, and then to find out today that
Control officer, it's between the person who is bitten and comes to the select board and the owner of the dog.
So
and
what do I need to do as being somebody who was bit last Thursday? Because I am looking for one that nobody else goes through this, and to find out that like I'm the fourth or the fifth is very frustrating. But I think the biggest frustration is the fact that I was told that a process would be followed, and it doesn't sound like there was a breakdown somewhere. And so what I want to make sure of is I filed a formal record that I was bit, so I need to know what's going to happen. And that dog doesn't appear to be quarantined at this time. So what does that mean? I don't understand any of this. I've never been through this.
There's a policy for the animal control officer, but there's a policy for the select board. And given the situation, it has not happened that often that the select board does this, but we will get back to you with the actual protocol instead of such a meeling.
So who should I get in touch with to make sure that happens? Because I feel very strongly that, if this was if it was just me, when I walked away on Thursday, honestly, I was very frustrated with the fact of lack of empathy from the homeowner and the dog owner. But I wanted to err on the side of, it's an animal, and I don't want to go through that callous thought process. But then to hear of all these other people and to realize that just the protocol has broken down, it's very frustrating. So who can I follow up with to make sure that I get to sit down in front of someone and make sure that my incident on Thursday is addressed?
Stacy, can you hear us?
Call the carrier, the town administrator. That's who you contact.
Okay.
Right.
And what do I do? Do I file another report, or do I have access to what was filed last Thursday?
Well, how about if you call Paula tomorrow and you and Paula can navigate
The
who needs
process.
to do what, and she can let the process, what you can expect from Paula in terms of communication, so that you feel like you've been heard and you know what the next steps are.
Yeah, because the select board can do everything from requiring, this happened, before either one of you were on the board. But there was another homeowner whose dog would get out loose and were aggressive and outbid a child. And nobody wanted to put the dog down, but we can go everywhere from requiring them that they had to install a fence. The dogs would not have to go anywhere near the front door, and they had to be always in, if they were out, they were fenced in the backyard and never seen in the front yard ever again. If they were, they would be put down at that point. I mean, it's
Just for my information, let's say that tonight this dog bites someone. What should that person do? Who should they call? Should they call Olivia? Should they call the select board? Should
They
they
should
call Paula?
call Olivia, and
Okay, so Olivia's
Olivia's
the-
and then the health
process
officer.
should be her, if it is a dog bite, she should be referring them to the health officer so he can fill out a bite form.
Yep.
Which the hospital gets in touch with Richard, fills him in on the steps that they need to take, and Richard will follow up with either the animal control officer or call the clerk's office, find out if the animal has its rabies update. Yeah,
Great.
So
Thank you.
Linda, so is that Paula, are you the one that's explaining? I can't see that when I'm speaking. Cause are you explaining what that protocol should look like?
yeah, definitely give me a buzz tomorrow and I can
Yeah.
walk through the process with you.
Yeah, because that's very different than what my experience was, and when I did go to the doctors, because I did need to get a tetanus, they had asked if I had called the police. So Olivia, and I don't want to throw her under the bus, but did not direct me at that. I will say Linda Blash did direct me at that, and now it's making a little bit more sense. But I guess my question is right now, if a dog, how do I know if a dog is quarantined? And what does quarantine look like? Because
Stacy, hang on a second. Hang on, Stacy. We have a whole bunch of stuff to do. This is all information that Paula has.
For you
And then
tomorrow.
Paula can give you one-on-one, very specific, and answer all your questions.
okay.
Just saying, that there is a state statute that she can research.
Yeah, hold on.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
You gotta be recognized. Sorry. Thank you.
But we'll take care of that. We need to move on to the next person who needs to have public to be heard.
So just
If
out of
there's-
curiosity, how do I find out if this dog is a repeat offender and if there's nothing that's been done?
Paula.
Paula.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
dog's a repeat offender and nothing has been done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're on. All right, is there any other comments of public to be heard?
I don't know if it's appropriate. I'm very hard of hearing and I didn't get the preface or what you were saying. You and Paula both know what I'm here for. I left a hand up for all of you. Is now my time?
Yes, just state your name.
Say,
Bob Hall, 42 Leary Road.
okay, Leary Road, okay.
I whipped up a summary and I left it at Paula's office this morning of the time frame and what's going on. Yeah,
We have it.
and I included some pictures.
Yeah,
I'll try to net it down fairly quietly. We built here in 78. We've been there since. We have never had flooding, even during the 92 and 23 hurricanes. It did hit the lower lands where my solar panels are, but that's floodplain and that should be expected. Last summer, I didn't realize it until I was splitting wood this spring when I was doing mud deep and, ankle deep in the mud. But the town road crew made a change in the Leary Road and routed the water from the east side of the road to my side of the road.
What's your address on Leary Road?
42.
42, thank you.
You know where Millbrook is?
Yes, yes. Oh, yeah.
You know the old hunting camp on that vacuum over the bridge?
Yep.
Just south of that, there's a little pool, a little hollow.
Right.
And the culvert dumps in that hollow. And the hollow doesn't empty, it slowly maybe migrates down or it overflows across my driveway. And in the handout, you'll see a couple of pictures. In addition, there's no appreciable ditching on the east side between Eels, I don't know the number, but it's Eels, Lime, and then the brook. There's no ditching south of Lime, so the water comes off there, goes over the crown of the road, and ends up coming down my driveway. Now, I made an estimate. Every time it does that, it leaves a ravine. And I've had 2 loads of 14 yards of gravel hauled in. And based on the 2 and how much that repaired, I'm gonna say at least 3, if not 4 more to get me back where I was. Where I was, I had a platform entering the road so I could pull up so I could see either way, a level platform. Now it's so steep that the Subaru is high centering trying to get out. Paula has been working with Jacob, and my bad hearing, originally I heard Jason. I apologize for that.
Oh,
It's Jacob.
no.
Anyhow, they've been working me and they came up with a plan. The engineer came out and did a plan. And I have 2 questions and I filled them to Paula. And is it a funded project? The project consists of culverts starting on the east side of the road. I have a handout if you want it.
We have
We
it.
have this.
Well, you don't have the handout in that,
Yeah, we do have the handout from Paula and the engineer.
but not the project
And the
handout.
pictures.
Yeah.
We also have the
From,
pictures
Tyler.
from Tyler.
Okay, sure.
Yep.
Okay, anyhow, it dumps the water into the east side of the culvert, goes diagonally under the road, under my north entrance driveway. It's a loop that goes.
Yeah, I'm looking at your road just so I can hear, so I can just follow you talking. I've got your house here on my computer, so I can follow what you're talking about.
So does he.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right, so you know what the project is. Question, is it funded?
No, it'll come out of the town budget.
Why not? The town cost it.
It will come out of the town budget.
Oh, it will?
Yes, it's where you,
So it is funded.
it's funded by the
By
town.
the
The
town.
town will pay it. The town will pay for it.
Okay. When?
After we get the other things that are higher priority, we know we've got a problem. It's very clear you have a problem, but we have a bridge that's still from the flooding.
It's
People
closed.
can't get either, you know, they
I
can't.
understand, but
So
the
that's
budget's
what-
being contracted, correct?
We still have to pay for it, and FEMA doesn't only reimburses. So we have to get that going. I mean, we have to work at all these processes. It will get done. You know,
Okay.
you
My
have.
concern is when, because I had a new crack appear in my barn floor. The barn is probably 40 feet from Millbrook. It's been there for, well, at least 12 years because I put solar panels on it 12 years ago. It didn't have a crack until last winter. The water level, the barn is downhill from the road. The water gets in the pool and migrates down the hill, and the level at the barn is just below the foundation, 6-inch foundation. So I think, I can't prove, I think that caused a crack. And the level is higher now than it was last year, so I expect more of a problem if we can't resolve this before the water reaches. And any work after October 15th is gonna be problematic. That's where I'm coming from.
Why is it problematic after October
I'm
15th?
sorry?
Why is it problematic after October 15th?
Because after that, you're gonna have trouble with the ground settling before winter. That's a target date I set, just as I set a date of Labor Day to get a firm definition on it. I know I've been a pain to Paula. And did you, oh yes, I have, I
It's
know it.
fine.
But this has been an area of great concern. The water from flowing on the road has actually come up into one of my structures about that high. It's going along your driveway and go down into the floodplain, which is like, it's fine, it goes into the floodplain, I don't care about that. But it's taken my driveway, and if you've been out and seen Lenny Dubuque's house, where it came over and put a layer, 2 or 3 inches thick of mud, my driveway that's up here, I estimate about 90 tons of gravel has gone down and is either sitting down there in the floodplain or gone down to Winooski by way of Millbrook. This is not good.
We have it on the agenda. I mean, it's in the queue, shall we
It's
say?
in the to-do list.
Yeah, the to-do.
Right, I didn't hear.
It's in the to-do list. That's all we can tell you right now. We can't tell you exactly when.
Okay,
Because you have engineering, I mean, the engineers work with it and figured out what can be done.
I put in the documentation, I don't know if you picked up on it or not. Back when we first moved out, I'm guessing somewhere in the early 80s, that was a one-lane wooden bridge there. And the town came in and put in a fantastic bridge. And they opened it up wider, but not wide enough. So the floor that came down in barrels after me, Matt, ended up coming crushed up by Reed Place up on Nashville. Came across the road apparently. Came down to Lenny Dubuque's, covered him, and apparently it even flowed over Leary Road on the north side of the bridge. Have you got any plans to try to resolve that? The only thing I could think of is the range has beaver ponds. The range is all on one side and a ditch from not down at the brook level, but an emergency bridge, emergency rut, ravine, ditch. So when the water reaches a certain level, it could flow down through and bypass the bridge up at Reed's, bypass the bridge by me, and bypass the bridge on Norton. Just something to consider.
Right. And that you're mentioning like up above the bridge, right? Like where the July
You know that
storm
little
affected
turnaround?
in that area.
On National Road, just past it, on the little turnaround, just past the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
If you picked it up on the west side, north side of the bridge and ditched down to the beaver dams, but made it high enough so it didn't activate until the water reached a certain level. So it's a safety valve.
It has been talked about what you're describing. Jacob has, God love this guy. That's
Sounds like
Foreman,
shut
but
up
he
and
has,
go away.
but he has mentioned that. So definitely is a good idea.
I'll give you one more little tidbit. You know who Phillipson is?
Mm-hmm.
When we first moved out there, this is, I'm guessing around 80, before the town did the magnificent fabric job on the stretch between Snipe and Larry, they had about 1.5 feet of water over the road. And my wife got a ride home courtesy of Mr. Tilson in his fire truck. Thought you'd like that.
I like that.
The other positive comment is, by the horse farm right out at the end of Nashville, the work you guys did, 5 or 6 years ago, putting fabric in, huge difference.
Oh, that's good.
A huge difference.
That's good.
Now,
Oh, we did.
by,
It was impassable. I live off of that road.
Yeah.
I said it was impassable until that work was done.
there was another place I think you worked on by, the lady author's,
Yes.
right, just on the hill. Did you fabric that as well? I thought so, because that's much better.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, thanks.
Thank you
Very
so
long,
much.
Jim.
Thank you.
Let's appreciate
I'll go
it.
away. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
As soon as I
you.
can, please, please, please.
We're working.
We've got you on there, Bob.
Okay.
I mean,
I'll try not to contact you as
I
much.
will let you know this is a very unusual summer. Between June, July, and August, we have had 40 inches of rain right in that valley.
Well, trust me, every time the forecast is over 1/2 inch of rain, when Beryl was coming in, I sent a note to Paula saying, what can I do?
Yeah, because we have an official weather station and 40 inches of rain in those 3 months.
Hey,
Every time it's over 1/2 inch, I flood.
did the FEMA stop and talk to you?
No, not yet.
Did they call you?
No, not yet.
I'll have them reach out to you.
I'm going
It's
to be,
just, it's not for municipalities, it's for individuals. So they're just kind of passing along information. So I'll have them reach out to you.
okay. I'm reluctant to buy more truckloads of gravel if it's just going to wash down the hills
Sure.
and contaminate.
Sure.
But my little pond there, it's breeding wonderful mosquitoes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 40 inches of rain, the water table is so high.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the agenda?
Can I ask a question? Not about my thing, just, you're not taking it up this later on tonight? I can leave, right? Because I spoke.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
Oh, for Palmer's?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, because I also have some solutions maybe, so I'll email them to you. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, please do. I like solutions.
Yes, there is a change to the,
We do have another public.
oh, we do?
I have never been to one of these meetings, but I'm encouraged.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Monica Burnham, I live on 44 Hanley Lane.
and we have a problem with dogs across the road. I came in and spoke with, Paula on Tuesday, and she encouraged me to come in here. There's 3 dogs, I believe they're all pit bulls, and at any given time, one of them is loose. They go into the backyards of our neighbors. And some neighbors have dogs, some neighbors have grandchildren. One of them in particular is very aggressive. Just barking and growling at my husband standing in our driveway. And our fear is that these dogs want to get a piece of us, basically. And now that I'm hearing things about Olivia, because we've also tried to contact her. And we have yet to touch bases to resolve what's happening over there. There were dogs living there at one point when Judy Duval, the owner, was renting to a set of college students who used to leave their door wide open when they'd go to school. And we had to form a complaint at that point as well. These dogs were required, because they did bite somebody right in front of our house in the road. They were required to be brought outdoors by leash. And anytime they were outdoors, they were to be muzzled. Is that a possibility?
There are all those different options are available.
Well, here's the other thing. Is it illegal to shoot a dog that is growling at you in your yard?
That's a state question.
I'm not.
I wouldn't touch that. I mean, I wouldn't tie it.
You know,
You do you, but I wouldn't, I'm not gonna say anything.
So,
Yeah.
well,
but it is a state issue, I think.
Right, yeah.
because that's where we're headed. We're at the point where these dogs are barking all the time. And like I said, one of them is always loose at some point. And because of the trauma that we suffered from the other dogs that were living there, I fear walking out of my house. I fear that one of these dogs is gonna be right there in my driveway, facing me. I have a can of mace, but, you know, my brother said, you're gonna do a lot better with a treat than mace, because the dog's really gonna hate you if you mace it.
Oh,
Well, you know, the problem is, I don't wanna even get close enough to mace it. I would rather be standing away from it with a scope. Honestly. And we're getting to that point because nobody is doing anything about our concerns. Our neighbors have concerns. They've also complained to Olivia. Nothing that we know of has been done.
We are hearing that loud and clear.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
And I would definitely recommend
I-
Google before you shoot the dog. Google,
Yeah.
figure out, I'm kind of kidding, but not really, like, if that's where you're at mentally, like, just
Right.
see what the repercussions of that are, you know?
Good.
But we absolutely hear what you're, that's
We
not
do.
acceptable.
It isn't.
Yeah, I will definitely
We have
reach
a
out to
lot.
Olivia.
Jim?
10 seconds. Jim Carroll. I've dealt with this problem before, not in Jericho. And what we did was we blocked people that were victims, bear spray, which sprays about 16 feet. And it comes with a little bracelet on it, so you can hang it off your wrist. And the dogs do not come back twice. It is so significant and so traumatic to them. But if they're on your property, I believe that you can do it. But it's a lot less lethal than a 22 caliber bullet goes a mile. Anything heavier than that can go 5 miles. It could ricochet. There could be somebody that you can't see behind a bush. So I just suggest that bear spray is not a bad alternative to a weapon.
How about paint guns? Like if all of the neighbors had different paint colors and the dogs come home with different paint colors, they can see whose yard that this dog was in.
It's an interesting concept.
I'm not gonna comment on that.
Yeah.
But
Okay, guys, we really, thank you very much for those comments. We really gotta get to this extremely long agenda. Thank
But
you.
anyway, before we get to the agenda, we need to make a change to the agenda. The road foreman is not able to make tonight's meeting, and that update will not happen tonight. It will be rescheduled. Now we will start with the Affordable Housing Committee report update from SJ Duty.
Also, people are going to discuss it. Okay.
Paula, is it okay if I share?
Yes. Is there something that I need to do?
I believe so.
We have so few talents, Paula. Let me have them.
It's a man shine.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Hello. So this is the housing report compiled by the Affordable Housing Committee. And this is really to report on the state of housing in Jericho in 2023. To give us a baseline as we enter into the years that the housing resolution and the goals that came along with that resolution address, which are 2024 through the end of 2028. So tonight is kind of a baseline against which we can measure growth, success, and changes. And I will just quickly mention that because I am a nerd about the stuff, that the Vermont Housing Needs Assessment was just released. And it's...
Yeah, you took that away from me.
I'm so sorry. Well, I haven't read it all the way through yet. It just came out, hot off the presses. And I just want to quickly reference it. I think it sets the scene on the very first page. It opens with really tying the housing crisis to the inability to fill jobs. And how that really impacts the state of Vermont. But I think for Jericho, while that's important, I think it's really important that we remember that this is really tied to Jericho's inability to fill our schools. And that is intimately connected to our community and our taxes, quite honestly. And so, you know, the state of housing in Vermont is something that we're all talking about. The situation in Burlington and in Chittenden County at large is huge, and we are feeling it here in lots of different ways. And I will just point out again, because it's shiny new data, and so I can't help myself. There is some updated information on the housing stock in Jericho. This is data from 2022. The reason I want to highlight it is because when the Housing Committee did our housing needs assessment back in 2019, the percentage of rental properties in Jericho then was reported at 11%. And we're seeing here a shift down in that proportion to 7%. And that's not the direction we want to be going. It's probably a reflection of the new builds that have come online. And so we've just got all of the new housing that we've added has been housing and not rentals. That's probably why that number is down. But rentals are really important. And it's something that Jericho needs to be targeting. And we're seeing here just in a couple of years, that number going down. That's concerning. And as part of that housing needs assessment, no news to anybody, it's, you know, the state of housing is just getting worse. And there is a real need to increase the pace of home building. And that's exactly what we set out to do with our resolution that we passed last year. To remind you, this was a resolution to set a goal that would increase the rate of building in Jericho up to 30 new homes a year. That could be ADUs, that could be rentals, it could be single-family detached homes, but 30 new homes a year. And further added to that goal, wanting 30% of those new units coming online to be affordable to middle-income Vermonters or first-time home buyers, and 20% of those new homes being affordable to lower-income Vermonters. And so when I talk about affordable, on that slide here, perpetually affordable, subsidized housing is a part of that. But we're also talking about just affordable to folks who are making who are in that lower income bracket, as well as affordable to middle income folks. And so in 2023, a household of 2 people were making $73,000 or less was considered low income. That would be less than 82,000 for a 3-person household. The maximum affordable home that they could purchase with 2 to 3 bedrooms would be 250,000.
Which doesn't exist.
Which doesn't exist. For middle income households, you're up to about 109,000. So middle income would be between that 72,800 up to 109,200 for a 2-person household. The maximum purchase price for middle income households is 400,000. So those are the numbers that we're talking about for 2023.
And who's defined, is this defining the?
This is defined by HUD and VHFA, yeah. So the maximum purchase price assumes, and I can go into, it assumes a certain down payment, it assumes average Vermont insurance and taxes and interest rates, and affordable is defined as affordable to a household means the household is only paying 30% of their income. And so you use the area median income numbers to figure out what 30% of that would be to then calculate your housing price. And yeah, those numbers are produced by HUD and VHFA and come out every year.
But the low income definition on the left-hand column, those are from HUD?
Yeah, so that's 80% area median income. So these numbers are specific to Chittenden County's area median income.
Not so much, gotcha.
It's
a formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, all these issues are across the state, but the numbers change depending which county
Right,
you're in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so, as I said, yes, subsidized housing, perpetually affordable housing are all part of what we're talking about here. But really what we're talking about and what the town of Jericho can really do is try to create an environment where building more affordable housing is possible, is a priority, and is incentivized. And so there are certain features of what you call naturally occurring affordable housing, or what I refer to as NOAA features here. And they're pretty common sense, pretty intuitive, diverse housing types. So condos, townhouses, multi-units, so duplexes, triplexes. We are talking about rentals. We are talking about ADUs. Of those small lot size, obviously the cost of land can make something prohibitive pretty quickly. But also lot size creates opportunities for denser housing. So cottage clusters, again, getting to different housing types, smaller housing, smaller lot size. Also talking about small square footage and fewer bedrooms. The metric that VHFA and HUD use is 2 bedrooms or less. These days, it's really rare. A lot of people have multiple bedrooms because they're working from home. So it's rare to see 2 bedrooms or less, but I've got that data in here. So that's why I mention it. And obviously infrastructure is also associated with naturally occurring affordable housing. So municipal or even community or shared septic, water, gas can decrease the cost of a home. And all of those things are more likely to be found in village center districts. And so I star that here, not only because village centers are often zoned to be more friendly to this kind of housing, but also because that is the area that both the Regional Planning Commission and the state have deemed that they want to really focus on growth, which means there are opportunities for incentives and for funding and grant opportunities that come specifically with village centers that also can feed into making a market rate house affordable. So in 2023, 45 houses were sold, or sales. One house was sold twice. But there were 45 sales in Jericho. And of those 45, 9 of them were below 400,000. And of those 9, many of them had a lot of the features that I just underscored. So 8 of the 9 were in a village center or village district. 4 of them were condos, which again, I mentioned because it's not a standalone single family dwelling, but also because condos turn over pretty quickly. Condos have been a great source for first-time home buyers, and also for folks who are looking to downsize to move into. 8 of them, again, were on half acres or less. 7 of them were 2,000 square feet or less. And in fact, 5 were 1,600 square feet or less. And I mention those numbers again, because I think sometimes when we're talking about housing and size, it's hard to understand how small is small, what is reasonable. And then last there's only 1 there with 2 or fewer bedrooms. But the other thing that is worth noting is that of these 9 houses, the newest was built 30 years ago. And so these are not the kinds of houses that are being built, which I think we all kind of know, and there's lots of reasons for that. But again, we need to start figuring out how to shift it so that those are the kinds of houses that we are being built, or at least so that the middle of that graph is closer to the middle income folks, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know this. I'm looking at looks like 1 house at less than 250. Of the houses that are circled there, do you know what of those houses are crappy houses?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, like, it's a 250, like, well, yeah, it was sold, it needed a roof.
Yes,
These new
and
sills.
some of these are old. I mean, one of them I think is 1800s. I mean, some of these are old.
But 1800s can still be like an awesome.
It can be, but at that price,
$18 house, but
at that price, it's probably not.
Right.
But it's fun.
I have an 1800s.
Yes. Yeah. And we was really basic here. Wow.
Not if you don't go down there.
But yes, I mean,
Just
your point is a good one. So certificates of occupancy. So these are issued when a new dwelling unit, a new home is ready for people to move in. And so these are really the numbers that are going to tell us when we get into looking at 2024 to 28, and after we've instituted some regulatory changes and advertised Jericho as a welcoming place for new families to build small homes. These are the numbers that are going to tell us how many units are coming online. There are no ADUs on this list from 2023, but ADUs would be included in here, and rental properties. So in 2023, we had 10 certificates of occupancy issued. As I said, there's no ADUs. They are all single-family detached dwellings. None of them are in village or village centers. You know, I did point out 2 there was targeted to sell at 350,000, which is great. What number is it? 9 put in a larger septic to accommodate a future ADU. Also love to see that. But again, we're hoping for 30 new units with 50% of them available to middle income or lower families. And this is what came online in 2023. I also want to point out, again, underscoring none of these were in village or village centers. None of these are ADUs. None of these are rental properties. None of these are infill. And I think that infill is an important piece of of the picture and what we need to be doing and we need to be facilitating. But infill isn't the answer. It's not going to make a dent. And it's certainly not happening now.
And just so everyone else that doesn't understand, even though I understand it very well, infill again is when you're building extra on the same lot. So like I have a house and I have 2 acres and I build another one. That's what you mean by infill?
You wouldn't be able to do that here, but yes.
Right.
I think that's a great idea and I think we should do it. And it's in an upcoming slide. But yes, that would be infill. You could subdivide. But yeah, so as you're driving down 15 and you're seeing yards, big yards,
But if you
putting in
subdivide,
another unit.
is subdividing considered infill?
I mean, I don't know, call it your plan.
Infill is like a generic, not like a, it's not defined, it's like a generic, like there's a house here, let's put a house here.
Let's get us.
I think it's more generic, sort of like, let's fill in where there's already housing, let's put more housing in the same area, as opposed to like, if you subdivide, that's no longer infill, now it's a new property.
Yeah, which is, I'm trying to help understand.
Yeah.
Myself understand when you say
And the
infill's not gonna
reason,
do it.
the reason
I guess I don't know
infill's
what
not
you-
gonna do it is because maybe I can drive up and down 15 and I can see a bunch of land that could accommodate another. If you go past the school here and you peek behind one of the barns, you see a triplex, right? And that's fine. Or you see condos. That's a great example of infill. And I can see a bunch of places along 15 where we could do that, but that specific landowner needs to want to do that.
Right.
And what are the chances that that's going to happen? So the more likely example of infill would be an ADU or would be a landowner who currently can't, but could say, I own my property. I don't want to change that, but I do want to build a small house for my son or daughter who is starting a family and I want to have them on my property and build it like you just suggested. So
Just having it across the street.
yes, they're subdividing, but yeah.
But it is an infill. because-
Yes, no, 100%. All right. So building permits. So obviously it can take lots of years for a project to go from permit to certificate of occupancy. And lots of things can change from permit to the actual thing that's built. But it does give us an idea of what kind of housing is up and coming, where it's going to be. And so it does give us some useful information in terms of kind of predicting what may be on the horizon. And so there were 16 building permits issued. Well, no, there were building permits issued for 16 new units. And I'm being specific there because the first 6 are all under the same permit as part of a PUD, but would result in 6 new units. That's why I'm treating them individually here because that's what we care about.
Sorry, I'm gonna get even more specific. It's 6 new units or it's 12?
That's what I was looking at.
It's 6 new units. It's a single unit that each unit is part of a duplex.
What's the unit building?
It would house one household.
Okay.
It's not a building.
So
It's the
1
number
so
of
1 and 2
dwellings.
might be one building, 3 and 4 might
Right,
be
that's
another.
Exactly.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Exactly. And I don't care how many buildings there are. I care about how many
No, I
families.
get that.
are in
Right.
it. Yeah, so that's why it's numbered that way. But you're right, it is confusing the way that it's labeled. So we got 16 new housing units potentially permitted. And again, when we compare it to the resolution's goals, which is 30 new units per year, that's about half. The multifamily, these duplexes here are really doing a lot of the work in terms of getting us closer to a goal of potentially bringing in some middle income or lower income families. And again, the multifamily unit aspect, the fact that there's shared water or shared septic and municipal water, I believe that there's gas there as well. These are all things that help bring down the cost and create more naturally affordable housing. And these are the same kinds of metrics that the state is using. And again, I hesitate to mention that, you know, everyone is in the same problem because it suggests like we should just all throw up our hands. Like if the state can't solve the problem, what can Jericho do? But I think that the good thing about that is the state is actively trying to solve the problem. And so they're putting their people on it to try and figure it out and providing incentives. And we need to make sure that we're creating a landscape where we can take advantage of all of the ideas that those people that get paid the big bucks come up with to solve the problem. And I also want to this is from a presentation I gave you all, I don't know, a year or two ago. But these are the building permits that were issued from 1990 in Jericho from 1994 up until, I think this was in 2021. And so, you know, in the 90s, we had a couple of years where 30 permits were issued.
For multi-family buildings.
These are just
Oh,
units. The blue
above.
dots.
Okay, gotcha.
So in 1998, there was a duplex.
Okay, yeah.
In 2004, there was some configuration of multifamily units that added up to 10 units.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
But just to say that the goal of 30, you know, we spent a lot of time and research into picking that number, but just to remind us that it didn't come out of nowhere. It is a number that Jericho has seen before. And that in 2023, we're still at about where we were in 2019 and 2020. And so kind of, again, single family detached homes in any part of Jericho is probably not going to be affordable to low or middle income households. Duplexes in parts of Jericho where you've got to have an acre, probably not going to be affordable to middle income or lower income folks in Jericho. Infill isn't going to do all of the things that we needed to do to solve the crisis, although it is absolutely a part of it. And as we move into 2024 up through 28, when we've stated that we really want to prioritize and incentivize increasing the pace of building and increasing the socioeconomic diversity of the families that can come into Jericho. It's going to be a lot of different pieces and investing in policies and PR campaigns and being creative in the kinds of things that we do to make that happen. And two of those things that the committee is focusing on are infrastructure and regulations. And so I'll briefly go through some recommendations here. Nothing will do more to support housing than infrastructure. I think I want to make clear that the Housing Committee recommends Riverside as the location for that wastewater. It's got the greatest potential for growth, the largest potential for customer hookup, the least disruptive in terms of private property for digging up lines, and also for accommodating the expected flow. It can also accommodate the most flow of the 3 village centers that were studied. Want to underscore bringing Underhill and Harvest Crossing to the table as you talk about infrastructure and wastewater. They are not just a sister town, but they really make up the heart of Riverside. I walk through Underhill, and every time I do that kind of loop with the dog, and they are directly impacted by what we do there. Harvest Crossing, for those who don't know, is an effort with Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity and Champlain Housing Trust to bring in 7 homes, and being so close to that village center, they should be at the table for some of these talks. But I think it's important that the town really make a decision and really put your political currency on the line for it. I think that we need to start kind of understanding and strategizing where we want it and what the timeline looks like so that the people who want to invest in development there that has the biggest potential to bring in new homes have some expectation about at least what the town is thinking. And I've got italics here at the bottom because this is an example of something that the committee's been talking about for a while. This is a really nice example of the time and money that went into the feasibility study. We now have a lot of information about some real resources that the town has in terms of soils that are really valuable and should be treated as a valuable resource that we strategically either protect or plan around. And so using those studies to strategize current and future land use and protection with science rather than historical zoning to determine what areas are best for denser development, because that's not always the village center, maybe for Riverside, but our other two village centers aren't going to be able to handle dense development except for maybe one strip by that the fire department owns. But using that to kind of guide our decision making instead of historical zoning, I think is smart. And the idea of looking at our resources and protecting them strategically makes some sense. And I won't spend a lot of time on the infrastructure reserve fund because I presented a letter here about it a while ago, but I do want to acknowledge that investing in infrastructure is more than just wastewater. There are lots of different ways, I think, as we experience environmental disasters, as neighborhoods that have neighborhood wells or shared septics are finding out those are failing. There are a lot of places where infrastructure where we could be investing in infrastructure to support our town, our community, keep the folks that we already have here. And I think an infrastructure reserve fund is an important way to do that. And then I'll just shift into regulatory changes. The work that the Planning Commission is doing right now with the bylaw modernization grant is really in line with a lot of the stuff that we've been advocating for. More uses by right, more housing types, more compact, easier to build. These are the kinds of things that we need to see to increase development and in order to make these kinds of naturally occurring affordable housing possible in a place like Jericho. We've urged the Planning Commission with every regulatory change that they consider or everything that they consider not changing to ask themselves, how does this impact infill feasibility and how does this impact either cost to build or cost of land? And some of the big regulatory things, you know, the village centers are important, but I think as we all know, again, some of our village centers are at capacity perhaps, but we really need to look beyond just the village centers. We really need to look at Jericho as a whole and not just hoping that infill and packing everything into village center is going to address the problem. I think that includes reconsidering the village district boundaries in particular, but looking at all of our districts and zoning districts. And again, relying on our resource mapping and science to really try to be a little bit more strategic as we look at those district boundaries and we start thinking about regulatory changes. So I've got a list at the end of the report of recommendations. Some of these are really hard and fast and clear, and some of them require a little more research. And I think our hope is that the select board will take a look at these recommendations, circle the ones that you want to see happen immediately, star the ones that you want the Planning Commission to figure out exactly how to implement, and give the Planning Commission some marching orders. So I will go through these quickly. Fourplexes should be permitted in all residential zones. removing restrictive distinctions between multifamily and single family in the regulations. This is something that is on the Planning Commission's radar, and they're talking about pretty actively as they go through their bylaw modernization process. Reduce or eliminate minimum lot sizes. Greatly reduce or eliminate frontage requirements. This is an example of whether or not infill is feasible. There are lots of instances where frontage requirements makes infill impossible in certain scenarios, especially when you've got a house plunked right in the middle of a lot. And then how are you gonna have them?
I had a place in Fairfield that had 200 feet of road frontage. It was a 10-acre lot. 1,000 feet by.
I love it.
That's why you didn't see with quarter acre zoning in Sunnyview, why you can't build on an acre lot, because it's right in the middle.
Right in the middle, yep. Permit multiple houses on a lot with requisite acreage without requiring subdivision. Permit and incentivize clusters of small dwellings and PUDs. My understanding in chatting with the Planning Commission is that really doing cottage courts, doing some of these smaller clusters. So what I mean by that is, you know, some smaller modest size houses kind of around a common green, that just either isn't feasible in much of Jericho or requires so much acreage to do it that it defeats the purpose. Update density calculations to allow and incentivize smaller, denser housing options and more housing types. So basically, density bonuses should actually reward multifamily units and reward density. Update fee structure to incentivize rather than burden diverse housing types and building small. And some of these may seem really simple, eliminating a road impact fee for a fourplex. You know, that's such a small amount of money, but again, when we're trying to do a lot of little things to create an environment where people can be a little bit more creative and encouraged to do smaller. Remove the eligibility requirement. This is a very specific one, and I don't know why I got fixated on it in reading through the regs a couple of years ago, but I did. So if I've got a barn that was built in 1980 and I want to turn that barn into a triplex, I can't because it wasn't constructed prior to 1955. So just removing the date there for adaptive.
Say that again. So you can't do it if it wasn't constructed before
They
that?
have to be constructed prior to 1955.
To be allowed to make it do a triplex or a house.
Because they would
change the use.
people to actually use the old barns, because at that point, when I think the original stuff came in, they were destroying the barns.
They were trying, yeah.
That's why it was there to stay, so that people could use them for other things.
Yeah. So that's all I got for you.
Is the PC seen all this stuff?
So I have sent a copy of the report to them and was hoping to get some time in front of them. They are super busy.
That is gonna be my question too. I really wanna know where they land on each and every.
Yeah, which ones
These
do
all,
they-
these are like what I am
What you need.
striving for when I get yelled at by people and like, what do we, you know, like specific recommendations for us to consider, like, is just the clearest thing that I've got.
This is like
I
a
really appreciate
guideline
that.
for.
So I really appreciate that, and I would love to know where the planning commission, I mean, I realize I can ask them too.
Yeah, I mean, I even if I knew, I wouldn't speak on their behalf. But it is.
Say what they say.
I might or I might not, I don't know. But it is an ask that we've heard from you, which is why we gave you a list. And some of them are very specific, as I said, and some of them, you know, we gave you an example here and there, and whether focusing in on square footage as a, you know, is the right way, I don't know. But it's a place to start with the planning commission. And of course, if you all have specific questions that you want the housing committee to follow up on, we are happy to do so. And again, this is as part of the resolution, the housing resolution, we agreed that we would yearly put together a report for you all to see where we're at and to see, you know, what I think will happen, what I hope will happen in 2024 is that we put a report together that says, here's all the changes that we've made. Here's what couldn't have been done before and what can be done now. And then hopefully in 2025, we'll be able to point back to those changes and say, see, we can do this, that, and the other thing. It's not going to be that simple. And I know that a lot of these changes take time, but it's a place to start. And at least it's a place that we can start tracking and pointing to try and keep us on track and measure success.
I want to put you on the spot for something that you said. You said at the beginning, or towards the beginning, you think of the things we can consider that the wastewater affects the ability to get more
I
housing.
have things to say about that too.
You think that, are you saying that is more so than these specific regulatory changes? You think that will move the needle more than these, is what you're saying?
I think that these will have a sooner impact,
Yes, that's what you need now.
which is what we need now. I think long-term, I mean, you don't have the soil, you don't have the soil. There's only so much you can do with a septic. And we all know that we've got a big plot of undeveloped land with some owners who have some ideas that would give us our whole goal. And I don't want to put all of our eggs in that basket. I think that is wrong. I think that this is a Jericho-wide thing. Right. But it's silly not to understand the potential of what is there, and by not investing in it there, the potential that we lose.
Right.
Well,
What does that dirt pile turn into if we don't have?
Because you don't really have to wait. Currently, based on the new changes, even though Governor Scott vetoed the bill, he's now standing with the legislature saying, this wasn't a bad idea. Maybe we can do this. But anyway.
But is that linked to having sewer though?
No.
What are you guys talking about?
No.
Sorry, the Act 250.
Changes, Act 181, the Act 250 changes, with the Vermont Housing Finance Board, that their numbers came out and they're talking about 24,000 units needed in the state by 2030. However, they're working on their targets right now. And within a few months, the numbers should go to the Regional Planning Commission, which then has to municipalize them. And they will be sending these numbers to municipalities. And but the state is going to help. But what you can do now is, I talk to folks about making sure Mr. Tatro knows, is there's an interactive map out there that you can just look at Jericho, hit the buttons, and it'll tell you where they're giving you Act 250 exemptions through 2027 as interim. Which means Tatro's property, his first phase, which is less than 10 acres, can put 50 units in there without triggering Act 250. All you need is water, zoning, and soil.
Not
So you
sewer.
don't have to wait for municipal infrastructure. Because municipalities, I'm not saying that municipalities can't help facilitate.
Yeah.
Or, look for development grants or things like that to help it.
And I will remind the board that if there was municipal wastewater there, that would significantly decrease the cost to developing something like a wisdom house, perhaps.
But then
And
may not be all
increase the likelihood that they can have more units that are available at a smaller, but I hear what you're saying, and that's.
So Mr. Tatro himself, because he's been thinking about other things as well.
Yeah.
To move things forward rather than just a wisdom house in the area. But as I said, the town can facilitate and look for ways to help reduce the cost. Because actually the select board has been working with Mr. Tatro since many years ago, when he first started.
Yeah, I know.
And we even gone to the school board and things like that. But, because you just are now, you don't have to have the wastewater in place. You can still do 50 units without Act 250 and get started.
That's amazing. The other thing that I didn't put in here, because it's kind of in the weeds, but that I've been bugging the planning commission about a little bit, is just thinking about, I know that that the state is, and you probably know more about it than I do, Catherine, obviously, but that the state is thinking about neighborhood designations and village center designations and the different perks that are associated with that, and making sure that whatever changes go into effect with the bylaw modernization set us up to really nicely take advantage of that,
Right.
apply for whatever those new designations are, and so that we can hit the ground running with the kinds of incentives and fun things that we can do with.
We're never gonna be the ones like Burlington or South Burlington, whatever, that meet the criteria for everything. That means that they don't have to do, they can do their own Act 250 out of their use. We probably would be, like tier 1B or something like that, where you have a lot of areas, we already have municipal water and we have zoning, and it will just be a matter of working with soils.
Yeah.
And adding wastewater along the way.
But with something happening in Riverside, which I mean, at some point, something's gonna happen.
Exactly.
That if
That's why I asked you if Pedro knows about this.
If wastewater were to happen in conjunction with Tetra or Bill
Helping.
Butler or whoever, saying, we're gonna move forward with this, the wastewater thing immediately has 50 units that are gonna sign on to using the wastewater. If those two things, as opposed to, let's put in wastewater and hope people will sign up, or
Right.
force people to sign, you've got, I'm making up the number 50, you have 50 guaranteed. Great, or whoever
Well,
says
and when
they're
you look
gonna
at that,
buy in.
But he can do it in phases too, to make it more affordable. I mean,
that's another thing that's really nice about Riverside and doing the project there, is because you can do it in phases. You can do this kind of core thing and then start to extend it down Raceway, which has lots of availability for infill. And I mean, I'm certainly an example of a homeowner who would love to put in an ADU, and I don't have the septic or the soils to be able to do. I mean, well, maybe we'll put in a map, but anyway, but like you've got Jerry Hill right there. And wouldn't it be awesome if Cathedral Square could add on to Jerry Hill if they were able to tie into a sewer and didn't have to worry about the soils there? I mean, there's lots of potential in that area to phase out.
It's always going to depend on the soils, because we won't have a real it's all community septic is what, the plant,
Yeah.
it is, but it's, never municipal wastewater. I mean,
No Ninja Turtles and sewers in Jericho.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, SJ.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
All right, next on the list is the town meeting reimagined update.
Hi. Oops, my video. Hi there. So first of all, I want to apologize because I'm really sick and I'm probably not going to bring enough enthusiasm to this, but I'm just going to tell you what our update is. And I don't want to give too much background, but basically as we all know, at the last town meeting, we voted to go to an Australian ballot, but also many people who were at the meeting expressed an interest in having more community time and not just having it be only the Australian ballot. So we came up with a 3-step solution. And the first step was a meeting to gather information about what people would like to see in the budget. The second step would be something that was very similar to our old town meeting, where we'd go through the line items and people would, give their input about that. And then the third step would be the Australian ballot. So the first step in that we have planned for October 5th. It's a Saturday and it'd be from 10 to 12. We do have a facilitator who actually is a member of our committee who volunteered to do it, Jen Nauer. And we're planning on having exercises, sticky note kind of things to bring out ideas. It'll be hybrid. We're publicizing it a bunch with Front Porch Forum, a bunch of posters, We'll do it on social media just to get as many people there as possible. Already people have said that they're willing to do like a bake sale to, you know, kind of bring the spirit that happened at at a town meeting. So I guess I need to know what your questions are about what we're doing. The second step would happen in January, and then the third step would happen on town meeting day itself, and that would be the the Australian ballot.
Did you say, what time did you say, Beth, on the 5th?
10 to 12.
And my question is, what, if anything, do you need from us?
That was exactly my question.
Like around the, typically, like.
Yeah, that's what I
We
want.
need someone from the board to stand up and say X, Y, Z, rah, 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 or we need you to stay out of the way and don't get involved. Like, what are you looking for from us? If any, maybe that's a question for your group to come back to.
I think in a perfect world, and by the way, SJ's on the committee too, so I invite her to step in. I think in a perfect world that you would have a presence there, but yeah, but also, no, this is a time for people to bring things forward and sort of gauge how the community feels about them and, you know, sort of float ideas and discuss ideas. So it wouldn't be a formal presence, but I think it would be great if you were there. What do you think, SJ?
Wondering is, are you looking to hear what we have to say, or are we better off just being quiet and just being there to listen?
We should listen.
Yeah, I think listening is that would be a great thing.
I guess
Then the second step in this for sure, you would be presenting what your budget is, just like you would at our old town meeting, and Dave would be the moderator, just like he was. Like hopefully that looks a lot like the old town meeting, only it's more hybrid and accessible.
So just thinking out loud, sort of talking to Eric and Catherine, but with you here, Beth, to maybe bring it back to the committee and SJ, since you're here, it turns out. It feels like my instinct is that we should be listening and that we should resist trying to answer questions or say why something's a good idea or not a good idea, or, oh, we can't do that, and just sort of let it all flow in, but not get involved in the dialogue or give sort of reasons for and against stuff, but rather just to take stuff in. Does that make sense to you, Beth?
It does, and I should say we were sort of inspired by when the Planning Commission had a sort of similar thing when they did the town plan, and it was all about ideas and bringing forth, you know, thoughts and not. Yeah, it was more like a brainstorming session. So I think that's exactly what would be your best role.
You're suggesting muted mics.
I think.
Mics.
Got it.
Yeah, I that was my plan and thought as well, because, you know, we're gonna be Debbie Downers along the way anyway, because you can't still fulfill everybody's dream.
So you do.
Oh, yeah.
Have to get reelected.
There is a treatment for that.
We can't be, you know, 'cause
But in terms of your group thinking about it, it might make sense to think about some sort of a statement being made about, I don't know, I am gonna be there, I'm not sure, Catherine, Eric, you went, okay. But then the select board is here to listen, but not really to be pushing back or saying what if or what about, and maybe make people on like, well, they're sitting right there, ask them what they think. No, to hit that
Yeah,
off.
that's a very good idea. I like that idea. Like either we or you should, yeah, start off with that statement. Yeah.
you want to hear what people have to say, but then along the way is, you know, you start crunching numbers and you see what the tax rate's going, you know, but how much.
Right.
You have to start thinking,
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
I mean, all that other stuff we'll do. So yeah, I like the idea of we're there to listen and not react and not respond.
Not get into
We'll have all
conversation.
sorts of other stuff to take from input into the budget beyond what happens in that meeting, right? Just like with all the stuff we hear about.
Beth, will somebody like be there with all of the brainstorming that's going on? Will somebody be able to like kind of take notes and so they can pass that information on to the select board in case one of them does not remember?
For sure. I mean, it's going to be hybrid and a lot of it will be recorded. So that'll be really helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Is Angeliki, no, she's not there, but Angeliki's on our team. So, yeah,
Perfect.
Is there
for
a
sure,
plan,
but yeah.
is there a plan for condensing and organizing, like, hey, select board, here's a 3-page, not, it won't be there, but like, here's a 3-page or whatever, and here are the big things, repeatedly, and, okay, great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
for sure.
Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's also, again, similar to what the planning commission did for the town plan, there'll be opportunities for folks to write, there'll be lots of different ways for folks to get their feedback to us to then kind of synthesize and provide to you all. One question I have for you is, what do we need, and maybe this has already been figured out, what do we need to do to appropriately warn it, since the three of you will be in the same room at the same
As long as it's one of these things, it's not a select board meeting and we can actually show up, just we don't talk to each other about town business.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
feel like you throw
I'll take-
up as a select board, but also as citizens, you know?
That's exactly right. That's basically a good way of doing
It's in this.
it. Because, select boards have in the past have attended, large public, meetings regarding different things with the planning commission. We just often, like the Planapalooza way back when, things like that, we just sit in different spots.
Yeah, and if you're not offering any kind
Ideas,
of
right.
opinions or ideas, then you're not discussing this.
No, this is a TMRI meeting, not ours.
Okay.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you very much in spite of your illness. Plus, it was nice seeing it, it's always nice to get a long moment with a pet.
Yeah, thanks for your help too, Catherine. All right. See you later.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to the road policy update, which was very nicely written, I will say.
She did a good job.
But it still didn't talk about HOA bylaws.
Correct. That's why I think it's good to do another review of this and make sure all of the information that you want is in here before we go and approve this. So I think it's one more step closer, but I think that we still need to make sure that all information is in there.
Yeah, because under concern, it says in order for the town to take over any road, the road must be in compliance with all town zoning requirements. I mean, that's, that makes sense. I mean, because that's what Blackball did. I mean, in that point. But then other people have talked about that it's the road. See, if you read it, the road is in compliance with the zoning. People have asked us to consider making sure that ADUs and at a minimum, ADUs and solar are part of it.
So I guess my question is, because I agree, I know we get some feedback. I forget exactly what the legal feedback was about Chuck's suggestion of making sure the HOA rules are not counterproductive to the town plan. I think it's how we simplify it. But my question is, can we use that as our guideline and have that covered under A? So you've got 3 policy statement A, overall benefit to the resident. Like, can we as a board, if we were to adopt this exact thing, could we use that and say, this is how we're gonna do it? And then future boards aren't tied to what we're, they can still use this policy and weigh the overall, I mean, it's our job to weigh the overall benefit to the residents of the town of Jericho in literally everything that we do.
Yeah, and we know that ADUs and solar are ones that we can, because the state, in fact, it says they can't exclude ADUs anymore.
We can't, they can't, or we can.
HOA cannot exclude ADUs anymore. That's illegal now.
And the same, and they think the
I thought that we found that their bylaws do say that.
but this is just for all.
Going forward, I don't know. I don't know the detail. I remember we talking about it, and saying, no, they just passed a law. The HOAs can't do that. And maybe you can't do that anymore, like from here forward. Or I don't know.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with the PUC thinking with the solar, but, so maybe we don't need to be specific, but based on the feedback I got from a team lawyer, legal, is that we cannot, say all zoning, because there's, particularly with HOAs, because the municipalities have very little control over some of them.
You lost me.
Yeah,
No,
me
but
too.
I think what you're saying, I think what Catherine is saying is that we can't say that if you build in Jericho, your HOA has to conform with all the zoning regulations, residential zoning in that zone. Which I think is different than saying, we're not gonna take over a road.
Right.
Unless your HOA complies with all the zoning regulations for residential housing, residential buildings in that zone. The difference being Jericho wants to ban all HOAs that don't allow ADUs. Versus Jericho saying, yeah, you can do that, go ahead and build it, but if you want us to take the road over, your HOA cannot ban ADUs.
Right.
Does that make sense? That the difference between we're just saying you can't do it at all versus which we can't do.
Right.
But what we can do, I think, is say, we're not taking over your road unless you have your HOA in line with our town plan, basically.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. And what I'm getting at is, does section A, which says overall benefit to the residents of the town of Jericho.
Under the policy statement.
Can we as a board, using this, if we adopted this exactly as it is, using this, apply that as a board and be okay under A? That's what I'm wondering.
It's funny.
It's impossible because she's saying the criteria not be equal and the way to sign is at the sole discretion of the select board.
Right.
So in the concern bullet, it says, in order for the town to take over any road, that road must be in compliance with all town zoning requirements. And I wonder about the road being in compliance versus the houses.
See, that's what I was talking
But
about.
then even, let's just say that the intention there is that all the housing, the whole development is in compliance. I don't see that requirement in the policy statement. And so,
Right.
so I'm wondering sort of, what is the audience for this document? Like, is the introduction and the concern just the explanation of why we made a policy? And so here's the policy.
Yeah.
In which case, the policy doesn't state anything at all about HOAs.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So that's
But
my,
it is open, but it is open by that first statement.
right, but I would want to be explicit and so
Wanna
that,
do that in
so that
there.
down the road,
Yeah.
future select boards, it doesn't get, oh, we forgot about the HOA thing. I want that HOA thing in there that,
But I thought it can't be.
no, it can't be, this is a road policy, not a town-wide zoning regulations. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. This is my understanding. This is my understanding.
Yeah.
That, let's say that we think gated communities and developments of huge houses without ADUs, that's a bad thing. We want to ban them in our town. You can't do that.
Totally agree with that.
Right. What I think we can do, and I'm no lawyer, what I think we can do is we can say, you can do whatever you want. Do your HOA however you want, as long as it's legal in the state of Vermont. But if you want us to take over your road,
Here's the deal.
here's the deal.
You have
So
to-
I thought that is what we could not do.
No, we can do that with
Okay,
certain.
then why isn't it written? I would. So yeah, let's write,
Okay, so
if we can
what-
really do it. which
Okay, so
I'm
tell
fairly
me
sure
what
Claudine said we cannot, but when you prove me
She-
wrong,
well-
let's get it written.
Well, the VLCT said that,
Which I sent her that information.
So
I
like,
have.
so like 10,
That
like
whatever
10 email.
the- From VLCT,
Exactly.
yeah.
and
So under the policy statement, you're wanting,
something more explicit about zoning, meaning the regular zoning requirements, not just the road requirements.
So A,
I
B,
think
C,
you
D, E.
should have Chuck
It's gotta be-
Chuck phrased it really well. The bylaws for the community of the road that we're taking over can't have, I forget exactly how he worded it, because he didn't even use this many words, but like can't have restrictions that go against the town plan. That might be too soft, too.
He used the word residential zoning, I know that, because I said zoning, and he said, no, residential.
Okay.
But I think the town plan is too vague, and that the town plan could change in 10, will change in 10 years. So I think it needs to, I think that it should refer to, I think Claudine needs to write it, but I think it needs to refer to the zoning the residential zoning regulations that the development sits in. But worded better, I think, water. Yeah.
They said generally, because I made the statement then, we had to keep clarifying it. I said, if an HOA has restrictions in its bylaws that the SB cannot nullify, the SB can write a policy that we will not accept a private road under such conditions. At least that's how I'm interpreting it. And the legal answer was, generally, I think this is true.
Okay.
So you're
Okay,
saying
so
not
we can do
accept, not accept what?
A private road under that, if they had conditions that we cannot nullify, but, you know, don't meet what the new, you know, residential zoning
Regulations.
regulation are.
That development,
Yeah.
that property.
He said that he thinks it's possible to write a policy and come to an agreement with a developer to remove HOA restrictions on ADUs and solar panels. I mean,
But
that,
we've
he said,
moved beyond that,
yeah,
to that level of
he
flexibility.
said that's the easiest thing, you know, that's the, you know, that's the easy one.
So
So
you
we're
feel
gonna
like you know what
we're gonna-
our intent is?
I'm gonna talk to Claudine, but you're saying do not accept, we're not accepting a private road under what does not meet the zoning residential regulations?
I'm reading something as I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, yes. I was trying to write it as like a bullet, but
Yeah.
the way that bullet, the A, B, C, D, E, with the way that is written, it's not written in a way where you can say, we won't take over roads unless blah, blah, blah.
It meets the zoning residential
Yeah,
regulations.
who wrote this policy statement?
This is all from,
This is all, Claudine checked everything, and so what I sent to Claudine was your updates, the road foreman's update, Tyler's updates, so she can incorporate
She
anything.
consolidated all that.
She consolidated it all into this one.
document. Okay.
Mhm.
So I think I would just tell her like,
Try to
the
put,
board we don't know how to do it grammatically, but the board would like this included explicitly in this
not
idea.
accepting a private road under what does not meet the zoning residential regulations.
Yeah, that's kind of backwards. I would say like the town will only, in order for a town to accept a road, all the properties on the road must meet the residential zoning regulations
Or the
for
HOA or
that
whatever.
zone.
I don't even know that it needs to read must, but because the way these are all written are,
These are almost like,
they're weights, they're like,
They're like
here's what's
things
gonna be
we'll think about, things we'll think about, right.
So like, if we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Then I think we can say residential zoning, you know, like, maybe give people a hint.
Maybe
how
it's
to
like,
do it,
maybe it's
right?
like compliance with, maybe like bullet F is like compliance with whatever applicable zoning regulations for that property or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
Townwide residential, whatever.
Okay, would you
Yeah,
just
so I
say compliance
think-
with
So
applicable?
I think it's like our theory is that like bullet F in that list of criteria is compliance or maybe HOA compliance with zoning regulations for the residential properties in the development or something,
whatever the real,
however we would.
come out.
Yeah, I think if we have that in there.
That
Be good.
indicates, oh, look, that we considered that and you HOAs violates.
Yeah, you're not allowing blah, blah, blah.
Right. Okay. That, you feel like you have that as a lot of words?
Yeah,
I mean, we're trying to do the right thing, both by people who've taken, you know, to do the work, but at the same time, you know, go with the, you know, the town plan goals,
Right.
so.
okay.
Other than that, it looked good. That was the only thing that jumped out at me was that
That's the
there was
only-
nothing in the policy
Yeah.
about that issue.
No,
I was good with that, because I was convinced that we were told we couldn't do that, so that's, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free. So Bill is from Black Walnut, so.
Oh,
Hi,
hello.
I'm just wondering, obviously I've been on this for 3 or 4 years.
Oh, yeah, we all are.
Yeah. And just wondering next steps or if,
The next,
is there a time frame?
the next steps is that based on, legal, our first step was to actually have a policy so that it was written and consistent from all going forward.
Yeah.
Rather than just, you know, hit or miss depending on who comes to us. And after that, then you come forward and say, hey, we've done this and this and this and this, and we look at our policy and we sit and talk about it, and then we let you know.
And so next meeting, 2 meetings from now, or? who knows?
Probably 2 meetings, because it has to go to the legal and then come back again, then we can, then go ahead and approve it, and then if we approve the policy, then the following meeting, you would come and say, we have, you know, this is what we've done to meet.
So I could like get a copy of the policy once it's been approved,
Yes,
so I can make sure, though you're showing up here and there's something in there that we're non-compliant.
That's what I was gonna say was,
right,
depending how this whole HOA restriction thing or requirements around zoning, depending how that plays out with the lawyer who looks all over, if she says, yep, you guys can do that, you can say that all the zoning for that, for the Black Walnut, whatever zone you guys are in, has to apply, and your HOA has to be in line with that. Then you'd wanna look at your HOA and make sure like that everything in there lines up with the zoning for that neighborhood, for that
and,
property area, for that
yeah,
zone.
that zone, because, you know,
And I could get a copy of that zoning requirements to Paula.
All could.
Paula.
I'll try to.
well, actually, that would be actually a good thing too for the new plan.
Day one of the job.
Yeah.
We can ask this, read the HOA rules, read the zoning,
Finish it off.
make sure there's nothing in that.
Well, should he do that? Is that, oh, never mind, gotcha, okay. Yep, never mind, okay.
Right, so we coming in right around the time where.
Yeah, just
No, but that way it gives.
So my question would be, if we are compliant, which I would say that we probably are, and we have no restrictions, which I know we don't, that would mean that the town would take over, there would still be discussion.
What we would do is you present us with all the information that we've asked, you know, because you've got the policy, and you say, I'm compliant.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then we talk about it and make a decision right then and there.
But I should go ahead and renew my snowplow leases, for the roads this year.
I mean, should you get ready to plow your own road this year?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If we weren't in a public meeting, I'd say probably not, but
Okay.
we're in a public meeting, so
Yeah.
maybe you should. I understand. I feel like,
Yeah.
the biggest hurdle I think that for you folks is to make sure your HOA it doesn't ban anything that the town doesn't already ban for your district. If you're like, no, we're good with that. I mean, you've been at this for a long time. And you've been more or less told, no, don't worry, it's gonna happen.
Right.
I think we can't really pull the rug out from under you at this point, provided that you check the box of the road policy once it's passed.
Yeah, and like I said, I cannot imagine anything that's restrictive one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I know our HOA policy, there's no restrictions in there, you know, we have solar, so. Yeah. So, and I don't know, what was the other word you were saying?
ADUs,
Yeah, what is that? I'm sorry.
accessory dwelling units.
So you have a house and you have a garage and you want to turn your garage into an apartment for your kid who needs a place to get launched from, so you add an apartment to your property.
That eventually you could rent.
So as long as that isn't banned.
We've had rental units there.
Well, this is like adding a second, a smaller unit to your single family home.
Okay, I'll check. I don't remember seeing anything like that at all. I mean, there's no additional buildings that we could have, like, we couldn't build another house behind the houses. You know,
Unless you can build a smaller.
That might be a problem.
Yeah, because it's.
without the approval from the town or whatever. I mean.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I mean,
everything-
you're right, ADUs have to go through zoning anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's,
as long as you don't forbid people from
Doing that.
pursuing that process.
no.
Yeah.
Okay,
Basically, as long as you'll allow, your HOA will allow, whatever the town will allow, then you're ducks in a row about that.
we should be fine then.
So it's,
Say, hold off on the snowplows.
Yeah.
But we have to approve it and then, then the following week, the following meeting, then, then we talk about roads.
I have one other question, just, I guess, procedural. We have our HOA documents, so those should be like brought and have the law, your all's attorney look at it to see if we're compliant.
That's what I was thinking was like,
Would be the zone, it would be the planner.
Planner, will Chris or Chris, like, need to like, oh, the select board wants to take the road over. I need to look at their HOA, and look at the zoning and say,
Is your
yes,
HOA
yes.
recorded into the land records?
I would assume so,
They should be.
yeah.
So yeah, the planner or the zoning administrator should look at that.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are the expertise to give the information to the, because it's less
To
work.
say to us, yes,
Yeah.
they're in line with that.
Okay,
Just remind me and we'll get it.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thanks
patience.
for your patience tonight and for the last 4 years.
I understand the wheels turn slowly.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Well, take care. Not the CERC or the Southern Connector.
Well, that's true. Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Considering how long that took. All right, discussion of budget process is next on the agenda.
I didn't print out the library stuff, but.
All right, I think that's pretty good, as you said, it's not going to be, we
Right.
don't know for sure. And obviously the kickoff is going to inform, some of this stuff as well and how we think about things. I would start with November 7th, though, as an overview of the process and probably an update from the priorities that came from the kickoff.
Okay.
Right, I just want to back up one step, because I've never been through the budget process on your end. I asked Paula for this, I think she sent you guys a spreadsheet with the stuff. So do you basically just like, okay, we're having our November 21st meeting. Tonight, we're gonna sit down and line by line go through whatever it says, health office and budget expenditures 26, like, again, then we attack that tonight, and then we say, great, that's done. Next
What
time we
has
attack the next
happened in the
section.
past is, because, this is before town meeting reimagined, is we have 2 public informational meetings that we have the public come in and listen to whatever and have them voice their opinions or concerns.
Yep.
And then, but other than that, we have work sessions
So
to going through with
the first thing you just described, that's just come in and say, I want,
Yeah,
you should have money in there.
The
for-
budget, the budget should be heard by the residents.
So they can come and say, we want a swimming pool put in the middle of Jericho Market.
But those are
They're more
after,
like
they're after.
After, yes,
They're
exactly.
after
Once you get the budget,
But this
that's
is
the confusing part, what's gonna
This is actually
happen.
going back to what we did with Todd, because Todd, once you hit November, every meeting had something about the budget. And he would
Yes.
do a section
Yeah,
and we talk about it, and that eliminated some of the extra work sessions. But we always still had a work session in January to put everything together. This
Yeah.
time we're
I think it's good to do these, divide it up and go, each select board meeting, have a discussion about something.
and it may not be the final numbers,
Right.
because you may have to
Correct.
have a big work session at the end trying to square up all the numbers. And then say, oh my God, we can't ask for 15% increase.
So these, the dates that you've got here, Paul, are like,
These are our select board dates.
yeah, and it says like health office
Yeah,
and budget expenditures, and the next one says budget expenditures, and then it says recreation, insurance, public health, safety.
right, so each, like the treasurer's department, town clerk's department, lister's department, health office, each one of those are sections, so
What are
you,
all those? I don't see them.
like the first one, November 21st. We can, I think I would have those,
Oh, I'm looking at the one you sent me like 2 weeks ago. Sorry, I thought they'd be identical. You've got, never mind, let me scroll down here.
oh,
I'm just looking at the wrong one. That's on
Okay.
me. That's totally on me. Okay, sorry, go ahead now.
yeah, so we would break it down, so say that November 21st, we'll review the treasurer's budget, we'll review the town clerk's
Yeah,
budget, the
okay.
lister's budget, so
So this is the entire budget, taken in
kind of
chunks.
break it in into.
Take it into chunks.
Yep,
and
and
just.
yeah,
One of them's have to be capital discussion too.
correct,
And who-
capital budget.
And do you bring to us, like when I was in the school board, the finance person would say, here's your draft budget, like we put in all the salary expenditure,
You'll
which are
get a
automatic.
legal, you'll get a legal size and it'll have
And then
all
we
of
can-
these information.
And then we're writing, like, we wanna add $6 to this, we wanna take money off of this, we need to,
Right.
and just work through it.
Because we would sit with it up on the screen
Yeah.
and then Paula, or whoever, Paula, Brian,
Yeah, yeah.
Todd, or whoever
Yeah,
would sit there and go,
Explain what's going
Yeah.
on.
and we'd say, and then can we say, okay, what if we talk about, let's look at the cost of living increase, what was it for, this?
Right,
And then we go, well,
exactly.
4.2, that's a stupid number, let's go
Right,
4.5, or,
Right,
whatever.
yeah.
So everything in November, December, and January 2nd, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 meetings.
Yeah, you're really gonna have to, it's really,
You'll probably be an extra meeting or
it's
two.
gonna be, yeah.
But everything between these two yellow lines,
Mm-hmm.
everything in those lines, that encompasses the entire budget is in there in sections. Right, beautiful.
And that will include the capital
You'll have
budget, and then.
Right, it's like the capital budget and the reserve accounts, which Brian puts those together and, he'll explain those
Yep,
pretty
okay,
quickly.
right.
He'll have that all. I think the one thing that I definitely think, just to kind of keep in the back of your mind, doing this budget, or even with the town meeting reimagined, is, we've got to remember, we've got the maintenance bond. That's gonna be a plus.
The garage.
We've got the reappraisal that's happening this year.
That does not come out of our budget. I learned that.
It doesn't. No, we have money that keeps getting set aside for that.
What, the garage?
The reappraisal.
Yeah,
Reappraisal.
Yeah.
We also gotta put money back into the highway for,
Almost
plus,
200,000.
plus there's, everything has been increased. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware, health insurance has gone up 22%.
Everything goes up 22% every year, so.
Oh, okay.
Seems like
Shocked. Perfect.
fire department,
Oh,
everything.
yeah. Yeah, so I think, I'm gonna start working on the budget and just kind of putting numbers that I know that I can put in there. But I don't know if you guys want me to reach out to the fire department, go, hey, just by the
Where are you
way,
at?
you need to be a little bit more ahead of schedule this year because
Oh, we
of
have to
this.
do that, because if we're going to do the town meeting reimagined, they have to have their budget, both select boards have to have already approved the,
So should that be,
or at least they have to have the budget pretty well, because it's gonna be part of the budget discussion.
right,
When is,
right.
when is meeting 2 of town meeting reimagined?
They haven't set the date yet, but it's somewhere between the 2nd and the 16th
Right,
What month?
of January.
January.
So it's really early, even for
Yeah.
the fire department,
Yeah,
but.
Is there anybody
Okay.
else like that besides the fire department?
No.
Like town library,
No, the rest of them.
he's already submitted his budget.
but are there people like him, like,
No,
But,
the only thing that we won't hear from, but we can range it, is the Chittenden County courts for the outside agency, but they're pretty much right around where they are, just add
the
them.
same thing, they're like COTS is in there and.
All of those,
Cozy
we're actually gonna send letters out, next week, I think, to the outside agency.
And giving them that earlier deadline, or we, okay.
Yeah, they usually are pretty good. Most of the outside agencies are really good. It's more of
The town committees.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
To get them to kind of get your stuff into, yeah.
And the other thing that will have to happen between the 2nd and the 16th is we need to have the capital budget public hearing, because that puts the capital budget into the budget.
Yeah.
And then I'm also adding to this the last week of February, because that's the informational meeting for the Australian ballot, because it's not, you have to have an informational meeting not more than 10 days before the Australian ballot.
I thought I had that on here.
You
No,
have
I
it,
don't.
no,
Say that again, Catherine?
the last week of February, which would be
Yeah,
the,
22nd,
she has,
2019 or something?
no, the last week,
The last, yeah,
because you have to,
Like,
of February.
be the 26, 30, whatever that Monday is of that last week.
Mm-hmm.
Because for Australian ballot, you have to have an informational meeting for the public not more than 10 days prior to town meeting, which should be, which is March, say 5th, I don't know. So that, and you said the town report needs to be distributed read by residents this 22nd of February? That's not, normally isn't it so many more weeks before town meeting?
It's, that's for them to get it to the that's when they put it in the mail. It has to be like 10, 15 days before town meeting. I think it's 15 days before town meeting. I don't have a calendar here. But that's what, yes, that is what VLCT had on their calendar.
So we need to put it in the mail on the 22nd?
They will mail it out. Usually,
It went out earlier, yeah.
I feel like it goes out like.
the 19th, I think last year was the 19th.
Because
Last year, it just, I mean, I know.
because early voting
It just
starts.
barely came to time.
Yeah,
last
because
year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's true.
it has to be earlier because early voting starts before that.
Yeah, but, yeah, I'll have to check that out. But that's still good. What, I don't know. That's really.
Oh. Is there early voting for the town budget? Is it all Australian ballot has early voting?
Australian ballot.
Hasn't changed because before the voting happened on March 4th.
Right.
Now,
Right.
with Australian ballot,
Right.
you can begin voting, I'm making this up, February 15th.
But see, that last information meeting applies to town meeting for Australian ballot, but.
Right,
okay.
but Australian ballot will be, it could be Jessica gets the ballots done, gives it a copy to me, usually by January 30th. And that's when they start ordering the ballots.
And see, we will clearly have warned town meeting before February. So doing February 2nd, that holding a public information hearing actually will hit for the early voting. So
They won't have the town report in their hands,
probably not, but at
but they
least.
have to have the town report in their hands
But
legally.
not for the information meeting
No,
necessarily.
but for voting.
I don't,
That's my
That's a good question.
Yeah,
because
that's, you have to have it for early voting?
no, not for early voting.
Yeah, we might have it before because
Right.
we don't have Australian ballot.
Well, and we've also had early voting before. I mean, early voting has happened,
Right, but not for
Not
the
in the town
budget.
budget,
not for the
No, but
budget.
we've had other things that are,
but doesn't the town report like support the town budgets, like the backstory of the town budget? And so if I have to vote on the budget, well, wait, I want to know what the conservation commission is doing before I vote for them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
before I'm gonna pass their budget, I need to know, I want to see the report and see what they're up to. That's not really gonna happen, but I'm wondering if legally we have to have the report.
I don't know,
in
because
hand.
because there are a lot of towns that do Australian ballot for budgets and been doing it for, well, the school board is part of our town report. And they have early voting, and that's been Australian ballot for a very long time.
But
They send out a postcard saying, here's some more, they send out the postcard early on with information that you can go to the
Is the
link.
high school report in our? the high school-
It's only, they send reports
Right.
and they'll send their budget overview. And we include that in our annual town report, yes.
So maybe it's fine then.
Yeah.
Because we vote on their budget before we see it. And before we see
you
the
don't
town
have to
report.
vote early, so. You don't, right? Like, you can vote on the day, so, I mean, there's only so much.
It's all the
you can
rules
do. I
apply to
mean,
actual town meeting.
Right, right.
But I like keeping the,
We should probably look into that, Paul, and make sure we're not gonna
Yeah,
violate some state law.
Yeah, because I got all of these dates from VLCT's calendar that they put out every year, and that's what I usually go by. So,
I like the public information hearing though on the 2nd, because that gets you into early voting, because people will come and you have the budget, budget should be, see, you can have the budget digitally on the town website.
Right.
2nd, clearly, but, so people who early vote could easily have that. They also have that in their head if they come to the, information meeting on the 2nd of February.
the only thing that, I mean, my concern is, and maybe it's not, is if you do post what we have as a budget on the website, say by January 2nd, whenever this next meeting or for the town meeting reimagined, they can't change anything, right?
The town meeting reimagined, that's the whole point of it. is
Can change.
They can change.
Right, so you're putting a, not a realistic budget on the website.
That's to start with. That's the one that town meeting reimagined will actually, people can look at and say,
Okay.
this is what I want to look at. This is what I want to change.
But I agree, Paula, that when we put it on the website,
It's gotta have
we need to
draft.
say very clearly,
Draft.
this is the draft that is gonna be discussed and perhaps edited or modified at the January 9th meeting. Please come to that meeting, da. After the meeting, the final budget will be published on the website before the actual vote.
Okay.
Because we have to have all that done
We want it
before.
out publicly, people go, wait, I want more money here, less money here.
Right.
But also
right.
understand that's not the final number.
Okay.
You know, and it is up to the select board to decide whether it makes sense to agree to that as well.
Okay.
Because this is a meeting, the real vote is the Australian ballot. But, you know, we want people to come, we want them to talk, we want people to have the little booths up and down the hallway, just like you usually do for town meeting. That would be town meeting reimagined. Because in talking to Jessica, people, when they come in to vote for Australian ballot, they're not gonna go up and down that hallway.
No, they're just gonna go in, vote and
Go away. And so this, and we typically post our warning for the town meeting early. So somewhere around the 23rd of January, we have our
Right.
we warn the public information hearing, that's the biggie, and then you have to do the other information meeting at the end of February. And then, so we could do, then you post the warning, and then you actually warn the town meeting on the 23rd as well, after just town meeting reimagined will be over.
The second meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, can you take me through that schedule again? So you have a January 9th meeting? where
It's not the 9th.
I'm
I made that number up.
Yeah.
I threw a number
I
up.
can do the 16th, somewhere in there.
somewhere in there is where the
There'll
town,
be a presentation.
they're gonna be, and I'm not sure where are we hosting this, or do we know?
Right, people haven't decided yet, but, I mean, you could, we don't, and nobody knows how many people would come.
But in terms of what's gonna happen that day, that's gonna look exactly like town meeting day with the board up front, taking pieces of it, describing, talking through it with decisions, answering questions, amendments from the floor, blah, 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 blah. Everything except for the final vote, which happens at town meeting day. That can't happen in that meeting. And that's the meeting somewhere between January 2nd and 16th. There'll be like a fake town meeting.
Okay.
Where stuff gets amended, and then the final vote will be on town meeting day by Australian ballot.
Now, because I don't know how many seats the Kiva, because there's bleachers in the Kiva. And I don't know how many people that holds, but it might be enough, because it's like, having the bleachers in the elementary school in the select board at a table.
And that's something like the committee, the town meeting reimagined will kind of schedule and stuff.
Yes, that's up to them. And then, but that's the point of having this kickoff and all the other meetings with the committees and stuff to make sure that they're on board to show up for, not just kickoff where people can talk about what they want to have in the budget trails or this, that, or the other thing. But also for this town meeting reimagined, where you have this, like, we're presenting and we talk and speak back and forth. But then you go up and down the hallway and yet all the committees have, their presentations, and you have the library with the buy a book for us and get a cup of coffee and a donut.
I think the town meeting reimagined people should take the lead, and they will. People do. Where the space is going, what space to use, and I would hope they would think about, okay, so what happened October 5th? Wow, it was jammed. We better get the auditorium, or like 8 people, let's try the Kiva,
Right.
I think you better have the Kiva and have it overflowing.
For sure.
And feel like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, I do too.
As opposed to the auditorium empty.
Yeah, and have 5 people.
Right.
Yeah, because the school's not gonna be thrilled with that. Okay, so now
Thank you for that background on how the budget is developed.
okay. All right, now we're going to discuss the town position vacancy.
That's the one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to talk about.
It was just worded weird, like I guess it is technically a vacancy, but I was like,
Well, what would it be?
I was looking for the word 50K.
Yeah.
That's what I was scanning for was.
Yeah. So I said, you gave us plenty of time, I'm fine, no problem.
Okay, okay.
No, it is a vacancy. I mean, technically, if we just haven't,
Figured it out yet.
figured it out, but so what do you want to say to start with?
Oh, boy.
I don't know. I want to know what we all think about the best way to use that money to help the town.
I was talking about this the other day to Paula, and as she said, she also, the public works person is somebody who has a lot of different skill sets. One, even if you're vaguely talking about anything, wastewater or water, they can be the ones that actually work with the agencies to do that. They can be looking for the grants for those things. That person also works with road people. In fact, it's very often Public Works is over the road department. And what they can do is facilitate, ease some of the administrative burden that we put on our road foreman so that he can do his job much more efficiently.
So you're making arguments for having that position be filled by somebody who we call the public works guy person.
Yeah, because they can do grants, they can do this. And as Paul said, they also can do administrative functions here, like the utility permits. Remember the gas permit?
I do remember that. believe it or not. Yeah.
What was the intent of that 50K? Would that come from the floor? Or that from?
That's for us.
From you? And what was it for?
It's Eric's idea.
And what was
To try to address the criticism that we're getting about our staff not being, about capacity. The criticism that we don't have the capacity in the board and so I'm like, okay, look, we don't know what position is gonna move this capacity, make us better at this capacity, this vague capacity thing, but we know we need somebody.
Right.
And so it was like, let's just get a budget in there, so we at least have some money set aside.
A marker to
like,
It
okay,
could
let's
be
go do
half
it.
time, it could be 3/4 time, it could be
well,
what.
for 50K, probably can't be 3/4 time.
Yes, it can. It can be full-time, because we're already halfway through our budget.
Oh.
That's why I did 50K.
Slide
Not
right
hiring
in.
somebody a year, but I knew it was on June first.
Right.
But if we
July
hire him,
1st.
You said-
let's just say we hire him for half a year at 50K.
Then it's a slip.
So you're
thing.
gonna add a second, you're gonna use that the second 50K next year.
Well, 50K also.
You're gonna be
I mean, hopefully they're not 100K, but
No.
yeah. It was sort of
I got that idea.
like an
You were thinking, okay.
But 50K also can include benefits. I mean, it could be somebody who's making 60,000 a year or something like that. But-
Only at 50. I'm not kidding, we only have $50,000.
right, but that's.
Oh, a year you mean? Sorry,
Yes.
yeah, a year.
Yeah,
So, because when we had talked, sorry, you have to go.
yeah, but because talking to Paula, because there are administrative things here, they're doing their jobs and can do their jobs. And feel that it's some of these different administrative functions that fall under public works. Because the planning commission needs people that know something about public works, because they're supposed to be looking at zoning regulations in terms of, stuff. And also, we've been trying since Todd and I first talked to each other about actually rewriting the public works specs.
I'm trying to find somebody for that. I've been reaching out to a few places to get. those done.
Well, Justin Willis did it, I think, did it for Richmond, but I'm not sure he wanted to do it for his own town.
Are there towns that have something like this? Like, that has, you get your TA or your.
Do you want help getting out? Are you okay getting out?
You have an automatic door.
Yes, just push that button.
If it gets weird, just give a holler.
Yes, we'll run out and open it for you.
Thank you. I really appreciated being here and listening to all of this.
You're welcome.
Most people leave pretty early.
Take care.
Once we get down into the weeds.
And so, does any of you have familiarity with a town that has one and what that person spends their time doing?
Oh, most of the towns
That's
around
what-
us have
Public Works.
most of the towns around us have huge public works departments. Who, Williston, Essex, South Burlington, Michigan.
There's someone out there.
Oh, okay. I mean, and even in smaller towns, you could have, they often have, because they don't have as much, they don't even have as much staffing as we do. I mean, so people would do that. But, if you want somebody to talk to the Champlain Water District or, any of those things, these are people, that's who comes to the, who often is the Transportation Advisory Committee representative for the RPC or Public Works people.
So you listed these other towns which have like full-on departments. Do
Full-on
we have
departments.
one that just has like one poor person that's kind of stuck and all of a sudden, like, right? Like, I don't wanna.
But that, I'm checking with people to see what kind of job descriptions they have in the smaller communities.
Yeah.
I haven't really fully fleshed it out, but, the other person to talk to is Joe. Because he works with a lot of those people and he can tell you, Joe Flynn.
Yeah.
And he could say, this town has, a small public works department. This is, we could ask what the job descriptions are. And you can cut and paste,
Sure, yeah.
But it serves a lot of administrative functions that lets the other departments work more efficiently.
And so,
Plus,
I
also
have
has a
no-
skill set that we don't have.
yeah,
who's
I
to talk
agree.
about
That
what's
sounds,
wastewater?
it sounds like the right type of person. Again, when we talked about adding that line item, it was about capacity. And so I think if we can, when it comes budget time, they can line by line now, right? They can go in and they can say, no, we don't want that. So how do we, like, how is this gonna help? Is this will this person, if we found the right person and they were executing the job well, as we designed it well, would that person be able to help drive this wastewater, all of the thing that goes with the Riverside wastewater? Like, would they be
Learning and promotion and grants.
would they be like helping that move forward? Would they be able to help with these suggestions maybe this is a bad, I think that was a really good example. I don't know if.
That was a good example. That's what they're designed to do. They also do project managers.
But Kathy, you're listing all these things they could be.
Well, and that's what they usually do, but you just have to decide, because we're not taking all those things on at once anyway. If we need a whole department, we were doing all that at once.
So I think if we were just to say to some of the people that have critiqued our capacity, say, I think we're in a much better place than we were, but here's how this position helps our capacity. What would we say?
I have a couple of questions. And what you said, Eric, about the capacity being the driver of this. When you were talking first, Catherine, about, they could do this, it was all sort of administrative assistant-y kind of tasks. And I was like, okay, so is this?
But these are skilled, it's a skilled task because when you're.
Let me just get my whole.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
I'm terrible at that.
I'm the exact same way. And so my thought was like, so are we just getting someone who's gonna do housekeeping stuff, who's gonna be like the assistant to Paula? Or which would address capacity, right? Because if we can take things off of Paula's plate,
Oh, yeah.
then that's gonna increase Paula's ability to do other things. But does Paula need stuff taken off her plate, or is she like, no, the job is dialed in, I'm still in catch-up mode once I get da. And I had thought that when you brought it up last meeting, my memory, which is genuinely not great these days, was that had come out of us talking about Wisdom House and being like, I don't know how to think about wastewater. I don't know the first thing. And you saying, well, let's make that 50K person be the person who figures out wastewater and does the money with the state and figures out if we're gonna use the JCDC. And then you said, we can't act on it. Let's put in things we can talk on it and make a decision next time. But is that your recollection? That's what I came out of last meeting?
Yeah, that's what he said there.
Yeah, probably. And the other thing to remember about when we did it, when we added that line item, it was around the time when we were getting ready to start the staff audit. Right. And so I was when we designed it, I was trying to be careful to not say, let's put $50,000 towards an administrative assistant for Paula, because or for John at the time, right? Like, we didn't know at the time what we really needed. And so I was being really careful to be like, I don't want to like budget this and call it this, and then they get done and be like, you need another plan, and something we had thought. So that's why we kind of left it vague, is waiting on that.
So you were thinking once that report comes back, it'll say like, this is how you
This is
approve.
where
Right,
it
this
needs
is this
to
is what you
be.
should hire,
Only it didn't-
but we didn't get that.
It didn't really turn out that way for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
But I think calling them public works is probably the right thing.
What does public works mean?
I don't know.
Public Works is,
I always think.
the bottom
I always think
infrastructure.
like water, like sewer. I think.
That's exactly what they started with, but they also, very often, deal with roads. I mean, or
Don't we have a highway department, aren't all roads taken care of?
oh, they're taking, this would be like, they go to the TAC and learn what grants are available and things like that. Transportation Advisory Committee, the RPC.
What don't we know happens?
But I think to Kathy's point, I think what she's been saying is she wants somebody that comes, not just what we're asking them to do, but somebody that comes in with skills in the general area of public work, which I kind of agree is pretty vague.
Right,
But
it is.
what I'm hoping is that the person can, like, wastewater, right? Like, go figure that out. Even if the answer is, this is 100% not feasible, you need to explore other ways, right? Like, go figure out that answer so that we can start doing that. And some of the other things that I'm not thinking of, that one's just such a big elephant in the room that, like, that's one, like,
jumps.
I just don't see, I know Paula can do a lot of things, but I don't see her able to be effective at dealing with people getting bitten by dogs and the road crew and the culvert, and also, like, I need like 4 days of not being bothered to think about wastewater, right? Like, it just doesn't seem like something even a really good town administrator can do without, like, somebody that you can say, can you go?
Pause everything.
Go call Tatro, go deal with this and get back to me with some sort of write-up on blah, 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 right? Like, I think that type of skill is what we're looking for. And if we call that person Public Works and we tailor not just a job description, but like, okay, day one, okay,
Here's your work.
here's what your work is.
So when you're writing a job description, that's why I was gonna look at some of the other smaller towns to see what they would structure it as. But this person is a very skilled in all these different things, could understand transportation and stormwater, yes.
If you
Stormwater.
break down.
Right.
Because I am still like stumped on
But that's
stormwater
that's
stuff.
who these people are that show up at the RPC. It's, they know this stuff, or they have,
If we had someone who like could do the deep dive on Riverside and wastewater, because Paula can't take 4 days to do this, and that's similar to like how we're trying to do stuff, but we're digging, it's 9 o'clock and we're talking about dogs getting bit, and we can't get time to talk about what we want.
Right.
Time for the town to grow. It's similar, like we don't have 4 days.
Right. It's not
Right.
just
So
Paula,
it's like, right.
yes.
I've got like 20 minutes on an agenda to think about, like,
I'm gonna
how we're getting $20 million for wastewater.
Right.
That's right. Well, and there's a lot of.
Whereas if this guy is like,
There's a lot of,
you can get 3 million here.
Right.
You can lean on
They
these
know
people.
it.
We could do
Yeah.
this crazy agreement where
Yeah.
people pre-buy.
I'm gonna go to Underhill and meet with their people and say like,
Yeah.
you guys want a piece of this, how we're gonna, so.
Yeah.
So my second question is, are there public works people?
Oh, yeah.
Are there people who do this work, who are looking
Yeah.
for work?
There who knows? I mean, but there are people who do that work who
That's their training. They went to school for public work
Yeah.
engineering or something.
Yeah,
or-
you don't even have to be an engineer. I mean, engineering, we can't afford, but it'd be nice, but, typically there are people that, are public works and go to school, but aren't,
Not engineers, but they go to school for public works and they understand all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
It seems like the right it seems like the right title, knowing that we can tweak it how we want.
Right.
And focus their energy in a
Oh, very specific.
particular direction.
Because
Yeah,
this is
for
somebody who
sure.
could go to Champlain Water District and say, what'll, talk to me about how much money it would cost to run it from Morgan Road to Jericho Center.
Mhm.
Do you want me to look into trying to get some job descriptions for Public Works?
If you like, but I could do that too if you want, because the other thing, we do have administrative support now for Paula and the rest of the staff, because Jessica has agreed to, she wants Megan to stay on the
Physically downstairs.
physically downstairs, but there's a lot of administrative, file, and sometimes she can go upstairs and file and stuff because they're working, doing some pre-filing upstairs. But can, copy things, file,
And do.
Oh, that's great.
basic stuff.
That's great.
And so that takes some of that stuff off of Linda and Paula's plate. Because the town plan even talked about, going to town manager. But a town manager, you'd be spending that 50K and just getting the person,
Salary.
the salary on
Yeah.
top of what the administrator salary is. So
Right.
you're not really adding capacity at all.
Right.
But this kind of person adds capacity to do a lot of the things we're asking to go do to grow in the future.
So do we need to make a motion to assign, we need to, or do we need to say to Paula, like,
I think Catherine suggested, or Paula suggested, whoever suggested it as the next step of, let's go go dig out a couple pounds and see who's got what, and
Right.
and if not, then we can. But yeah, I think the answer to your question is, I don't think we need a motion tonight.
No,
I was
not tonight.
just thinking how funny it was, we're at 9:00, we haven't made a single motion yet.
nothing?
Oh, get ready, because the next one you can.
Yeah.
Boy. So I think that's
Two
that's
quickies, in fact.
really good. I think that.
Yeah.
I think that's the right next step for the town, and I understand that means, like, yeah, it's only 50 grand this year because we're gonna hire.
Right, it's December, but it's gonna.
It means another 100 including everything.
Another
right?
50, another 50.
Right.
You're like, the budget
It's already there.
The budget increase is 50.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So Paul, you feel like you know what the next steps are?
Yeah, I'll look for some job descriptions of Public Works and we'll go from there.
All right, we have the acceptance of the sidewalk easement for Riverside Sidewalk Project. So they found the property owner that did not get.
Right, Linda
Signed.
has been, because the Riverside sidewalk is moving right along.
That's wonderful.
They did some research and just found in 2016, this didn't get,
We didn't get one.
yeah, it didn't get finished. So I do have the actual one if you want to approve it and sign it.
Oh, you have the actual document.
Yep,
I think I lost my pen again.
I have purple.
I only have a pencil, right?
But anyway,
Motion?
Yeah, I need a motion.
Yeah,
Motion to approve the resolution of the select board of the town of Jericho for, what am I approving?
it's a Riverside sidewalk easement.
For the Riverside sidewalk easement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Quick question, what do you think before is the market?
That's the.
There's already a sidewalk there.
No, it's gonna start, it's
Oh,
gonna
it's
start.
picking up. Okay,
Yep, and
never
then
mind. Got
they're
it.
gonna change it a little bit at the market and then it's gonna go
Okay.
continuously.
Okay,
Yep,
gotcha.
yep. Do you want my purple one?
I already signed it, I just,
What about the warrant?
yeah, I gotta work on those.
Yeah, because the case can be purple.
Fitzsimonds.
Yeah,
Catherine, thank you for asking for those bids because
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
that
I
was,
thought they were included in there.
I mean, yeah, like
Crazy
that was another question was, are we getting the getting the McDonald's version of a meal? Like, are we getting,
exactly.
like the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's like double and then more than double.
Right,
Like, are we getting the janky version? We're like, oh, it should be good for the next 3 or 4 years.
yeah.
Or are we getting, does the person know what they're doing and
I know, I mean, because it's
Yeah.
such a huge, I mean, otherwise you'd go with the little bid because you, well, maybe you get it.
Massive.
Yeah,
But it's a huge difference, and then again, it's almost 4 times.
yeah,
And, right. And Jacob knows the bidder
Yeah,
and it's like, yep,
yeah.
that's great, he's on board.
he's on board with it.
Is that what you said?
Yeah,
On board.
yeah.
So we need a
So
motion.
that comes out of our budget,
Yes,
or we get reimbursed from FEMA?
We
or-
will get reimbursed from FEMA.
Okay.
75%.
What?
Well, it all depends, yeah, could be 100 if we get everything.
I'd like 100, I'd rather have 100.
Okay, I'll try.
I'm gonna second that. When do we get the money? I'm just thinking about the cycle of the budgets, like, are we gonna have to,
Sometimes.
we're gonna have to up our budget
Yes.
and then,
That's for that kind of stuff,
That's what the
we have
unrestricted,
reserved.
that's what
We
the
have-
unrestricted fund balance is for, it's the rainy day fund.
Like if it's something that you know, like it's coming in a real, like, we don't need to mess around with the budget with that. Okay.
But it can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years or longer.
Yeah.
To get something.
but it's something that kind of doesn't matter because we're gonna take it from a little rainy day when the check comes in from FEMA, we just dump it back on the rainy day.
It's like that fund kind of
But-
Goes up and down.
business.
But you need to make the actual motion to accept the bid
Oh, sure.
and the number.
Yeah, the
Okay,
number.
so I'll make a motion to, accept the bid for the Fitzsimonds Bridge project from Angelino's Excavating for $51,650.
I'm gonna second. I would like to discuss for 1 second.
Yeah, dude, you gotta do it.
It's a quarter of the cost.
Yes,
And
I can't.
you or
Now-
Jacob or someone like, you're like, yep, he knows what he's doing.
Jacob said it, yeah, Jacob said
I know, I looked at that
It's
too.
just like,
it's,
holy crap.
it's.
Exactly.
And so just for the heck of it, so let's say we're gonna vote and approve it, and then we move forward, and you get to the bridge, you go, oh crap, I forgot about asphalt.
Oh,
I'm gonna need an extra 50K.
Well,
Like, what
Yeah,
happened with
I
that?
wondered that.
I think we should, I mean, my thought when I seen this is that I don't want to go, I have on the back of this RFP that he will sign off, and I want it to state, I will put in there that it won't exceed that amount. That's all I
And then you wanted
I
to.
mean, he could, when she contacts him, you could be like, hey, you know, we're all like, we
They're
appreciate
kind
this
of
price,
like-
but we're a little nervous because,
Yeah,
you know, are you sure
right.
that you got?
exactly.
And maybe have Jacob say like, yes, you're gonna do the reinforced
Right,
bar,
you're
you're
gonna
gonna
do all of
double
this.
wall thickness, whatever
Right.
things.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
unless he
Yeah.
finds
So
out,
it
he
might
gets into it, like, oh, I got into it, and no one knew that this was falling down, it's gonna cost me a
Right.
ton more, but.
Right, yeah,
And if there's that nobody knew.
Right, that's different than.
Exactly,
I didn't
exactly.
realize how much asphalt actually
right,
costs.
right, right.
Okay, so I've
Yeah,
seconded it.
typically, you know, I mean, that's why some of the bigger projects actually use the, V-Trans, bidding process. So that-
Okay, yeah, so I second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, that's the widest spread I've seen. We've seen it sometimes before with paving projects and things, but that's a huge one. All right, we have liquor license,
Oh my gosh, these are, they're so Joe. Okay.
They really are.
So I'm just gonna do them one at a time.
yeah,
I'll make a motion to, accept the liquor license for Waterfront Yogurt and Sandwich Company at Mount Mansfield Barn on September 27th.
Second.
all those,
Good time, did you in the motion?
Yeah.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion for 2 dates, both for Griffin Riders, both at Mount Mansfield Barn, one for September 1st. Boy, I hope they have a fun time.
That should be a weekend, that should be a home day, that'd be great.
Yeah, I might crash that one.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I'm never gonna stop complaining about it.
I know, You know what?
But it's the rule, but that is a state statute. We,
But you guys got to approve it.
It does say at the bottom of this, Catherine needs to approve the 9/1 event
I did.
ahead of time.
She did.
I even signed it.
Okay, okay. Great.
She's kind of, I can't wait to hear Eric whine about that.
Can I have
What
my,
do you need? Yep.
yeah, so I can make these minutes if there's any corrections?
Okay, so right now, select board update.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The only thing I had was just a question for you, Catherine, about you had sent pretty quickly after the PC meeting, you sent out the agenda that maybe Susan put together and then Jen said it looked good and then,
I didn't answer.
oh, you didn't?
No, I haven't fully answered. Because, Susan now wants it to be facilitated and we haven't really talked about that.
Oh.
So we'll have to talk about it and decide, but it is on for the 27th and I,
27th or 23rd?
20, whatever it is.
Okay.
23rd.
23rd, yeah,
Yeah.
the 25th is the final date that I've come up with, chair to chair. Anyway, so that's all you had.
So what's that, so what does that mean that you're,
Well,
in terms of like, what's the next?
Sounds like we have some executive session, maybe.
yeah, we did.
Oh,
Talk about
okay,
some of that.
okay, great.
Anyway, you have others that are updates?
No.
Okay, well, as you can see, it's not quite finished, but we have the new town hall art project and it runs through December and it's called Small Wonders. There is no consistent theme except size. It had to be larger than 6 by 6 and smaller than 11 by 14 or perimeter thereof.
That's
It's funny how often it catches my eye but like it's not actually registering until you start like, oh yeah, I'm looking at this thing over here that's caught my eye. But it hasn't like registered.
Oh, that's a different car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called, for that reason, it's called Small Wonders. And so the artist could choose their own topic or theme, but it had to fall within the size category that we chose. And part of the reason is, a small piece like this that could catch somebody's eye is more affordable for holiday gifting.
Good point. It's really true.
And then, another update, Jet Force is going to be assisting the Underhill Energy Committee with an EV event at Browns River Middle School on September 18th from 3 to 6 p.m. Green Mountain Power, Drive Electric are going to be there. We also plan to have electric yard equipment, including a rider motor. There may be, because we figure there may be more interest at, this kind of event than at the farmer's market for yard, to demonstrate yard equipment. We're also considering a fall repair clinic in mid to late October, like you participated in last year. And the date is still to be determined, but we're actively seeking volunteers wanting to do so. And since Phil Newbeck has resigned from the Jet Force, she's willing to walk us through it, but the Jet Force has to take more of responsibility. But we're also talking to transition towns because they're talking about one, they may have somebody who would be willing to help with plants, whether it's, do you have, what kind of bug it is, or how do you recot, or this, that, or the thing. Because they also used to do what was called, it was a university, yes, it was, a citizens university. We had classes on different things and stuff like that. And then this goes to a question that somebody asked me by email this week. But the executive committee of the RPC met last night, and I asked them to request Green Mountain Transit come to the September RPC board meeting. Because with their desire to reduce costs, ARC Commuter Express is on the block to be chopped.
Oh.
That's why that's why the woman knows that.
It is one of the more expensive lines to run, but we have people who depend on it on a daily basis. I mean, it's almost an equity issue.
How come they didn't inform people like this was happening?
Turns out Green Mountain Power has gone to some of the other towns and already, met with the
Green Mountain
reports.
Transit, you mean?
Yeah, Green Mountain Transit, GM, boy, there's too many Gs.
GMG.
Oh, no kidding.
But they haven't, we certainly paid them.
That's a good point. How much you paid? It's a non-mandated.
16,000, I think.
Yeah. So I was gonna, so anyway, they're gonna come to this, the September board meeting of the RPC. And one of the questions I'm gonna ask is, what are you gonna do about things like this? Because it is an equity. People do go to work or or go to school using, this express bus. I mean, even if you, cut it down, why can't we use why can't you use a microtransit bus like you're doing within environs of Montpelier?
That's what I was thinking about. So that woman, Emily Listowich,
Yeah.
emailed, I'm assuming you guys too, I was on a blind
Okay, that's her
CC.
name.
Yeah.
And I wrote back to her and basically said, yep, I imagine it's a financial thing and a number of riders using it. And I think I'd rather see it go the other direction where we have like 8 runs.
Right.
And to make it fit their schedule, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm happy to reach out to Green Mountain and advocate, but my concern is it being used? Like, who?
That's why I answered the RPC.
And I said, I live near the bus stop and there's like only 2 or 3 cars there. And so she wrote back and said, there's a lot of people who walk to the bus.
Yes, they do.
And there are numerous pickups in addition to the River Road one that I see from my house.
Because she gets hers at the post office.
And then she said there's 10 plus riders each day. And,
Oh, it's absolutely right.
And again, the bus has-
$221.
Wait a minute, what'd you just say?
You're absolutely right. $16,221 we paid them.
I second the motion. Eric has been, Paul is correct. But you say 10 riders a day going in and out, and the smallest she's ever seen is 4 to 6. And there's the irregular demand primarily coming from foot traffic people. And there are people on the bus who specifically can't drive, either aren't able to, or don't have a car, or share a vehicle with other family members, which we want them doing. We want people to have
Exactly.
one
That's the
car
whole
too.
point, is also for climate. Not just, it's really a climate issue, not just a transportation issue. It's also an equity issue for people who, we're.
And so people riding the bus are often employees at Keurig in Essex and Fanny Allen in Colchester and UVM Medical Center and other employers in downtown Burlington.
So where does the bus come from when it comes through here? Does it go, is it just in Cambridge?
It goes to Jeffersonville.
Jeffersonville and then
Starts at
back through?
It starts, yeah, and then hits Cambridge, Underhill, and the different spots of Jericho.
And it hits through Essex and stuff until it gets to Burlington, or?
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot of towns it's hitting. You would think that it wouldn't be on the.
Well, I know, but it's because it's a more expensive run because it's a long run.
Sure.
Yeah, so they talked about how expensive a run it is, but so I want
But they're getting 16,000 from us.
Yeah.
And let's say they're getting the same from
other towns.
Jeffersonville, even 16 times 4,
And
let's say it's 4 towns, it's what, like 16?
65 grand.
There's your driver.
Yeah.
That's your driver.
Well, and the RPC jumped them from 400 and some to 600 some $1,000 per year as for their share of the UPWP.
I mean, I get it. We need to get more people using it. I understand that, but like stopping the route is not the way.
Right.
It isn't gonna make that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I said, like, I think it'll go the other way, where it's written, there's 6 runs in the morning and 6 in the afternoon,
Yeah.
so.
Like kind of divided.
Right, and you know, oh, wait, I could ride the bus, they leave right within 5 minutes when I wanna leave anyway, like, yeah, right.
But people wanted to do that early on because they thought about the seniors who might just want to go in for half a day or something like that,
Yeah.
But that's why I asked them to come to the RPC and really explain and answer some of these questions, because I said, okay, so what if they quit it? What about the money that we, paid them?
Right.
What was the money we paid them essentially for service that year? So the money from last year, like, yeah, you paid it and we had the bus and now your money's gone on the bus.
So we've already,
So
We haven't, not for this fiscal year, we haven't submitted it yet.
We haven't sent the money yet.
okay, well, but
Oh, so that what we budgeted for 25, they don't have yet?
Correct.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, we divided up into thirds.
Oh.
But clearly, I think this is an issue that needs to be, even if it's just and I know they like to use big buses because then they can interchange buses and stuff like that, but there's no reason why they can't use
That was my thought, why can't they send out a?
microbus like they do in
microbus
Montpelier?
or- Yeah.
Because they use microbuses to run all around Montpelier.
So what is, I was gonna do a little research and write a thing to GMT as like one select board member who was who was lobbied by
I
a
will-
constituent and had concerns personally
Right.
and as a member of a town, maybe, but do we want to do a group team
I
thing?
think we will, but I think let's wait until after they talk to the Regional Planning Commission. And
So,
see,
so let's write, did you write back to that woman and tell it?
yeah, that's found, well, I just gave her this, I had answered her before and said, you know,
Okay, good.
but this is what I'm gonna tell her now because that happened just last night.
Okay.
Oh, good.
And I'll probably write back to her tonight.
I never wrote back. I'm terrible about that.
I'll probably write back to her tonight and just say, hey, just so you know, we spoke tonight and Catherine is having them come to the RPC. And we're gonna be doing what we can to try to advocate to.
Absolutely, because there are people all along the way that are using it. I mean, when you've got 10 or more rioters, you know, we would argue equity, we argue climate, I mean, any of that stuff. This chair-to-chair meeting has been a struggle. To try and, you know, because I want to get it out before the TMRI, because the committees are going to be part of that, you know, and need to be part of it, you know, talk about what they want, you know, when people come to trails and say, oh, I'd like to see this or that or the other thing. But I have changed dates so many times to accommodate the chairs, but still 3 chairs have not yet answered.
Well, then I think, here's my suggestion.
So I'm just gonna-
One, stop being so nice. Okay, 2. Prioritize
The one,
Yes.
heavy hitters,
Yes.
AC and,
Yes.
whatever else.
Planning Commission, affordable housing and the DEI.
Housing is one of the ones that hasn't responded.
Who is?
No way.
yeah, because, yeah. But
Anyway,
yeah.
So how many, who do you have responses from?
I have everybody except conservation, who
Okay.
is always,
Okay,
affordable housing. And,
they're chairless, so they're.
yeah, right, they're in between. And because even, the DEI committee, which is down to 2 people, responded right away.
So they're down to 2 people on the whole committee? That's all they have?
So I understand.
So I would recommend, if you have a date that a bunch of you, I would just run with it.
And then the other one is, the other third person is Lindsay, from the town library.
So I would, when is that?
It's going to be the 25th,
November?
but it's just chair to chair. I'm sorry. And then, both, Paula and I can talk about it, but we had an Old Red Mill meeting this morning. It was a woo-hoo. It's taken the Old Red Mill folks a long time to get the report to us. We still don't have it yet.
No.
In terms of what
No.
Elliot Lothrop found out in terms of, the building itself. But Jackson Evans,
From the preservation.
but he's the historic preservation, he's the Preservation Trust of Vermont, which is independent of the state, so it's more flexible. And it's a state, it's a nonprofit, and its idea is to build community through historic preservation. And they do assessments and have some funding available, and they are connected with other funders or grants, or, you know, to help us. But so, our focus is going to be on the southeast corner, and they actually saw that it was problematic. And their person likes they have a historic engineer that's also going to be working with his preservation trust. And he's excited to work with Bob, I didn't get his last name, excited to work, and he's gonna, we'll get Brierley Associates, our guys involved as well. Because what is it, the 9th? The cranes are already there, and the 9th.
They're starting to do it now,
Well,
which they said the 9th.
Yeah, they said the 9th, but they're starting to take some more rocks out, because the whole issue is, turns out, Elliott, as we understand it, and people said, oh, no, it's no big deal. But the contractors who were even decided not to bid on the Old Red Mill said, oh, yeah, we're not doing it with this, this crack. He found out the foundation has moved.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. And so, that was why, we had to work on the foundation first before we can engage with the EWS grant to finish the wall.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that once the water drops again and Byerly gets his idea of how to keep it from doing a whirlpool in that corner, which is wearing away at everything, they'll get to actually look at the foundation and the interface with the wall and the slope of the slab or bedrock or whatever you want to call it. But what's going to happen is there was some engineering studies done by Du Bois King from EWS and how to attach it to the rock. Briley was going to look at his own ways of doing it. But essentially, there's this rod and clunk kind of thing to attach it to the rock so it doesn't move anymore. And then they can finish the foundation. And then once that happens, we can engage the grant. And it would be nice if something happened for the end of the year so we could get the grant, because otherwise, if there's a change in administration, that grant's gone. And then, so the Historical Society wants to make sure that we, keep them in the loop.
Be sure to do that.
Well, but the preservation, Ms. Jackson Evans' goal is to have a site visit once the water's down to clarify, what's going to happen after this, the water's down, and, who's going to be responsible. And I told them the town is responsible because we were the ones who got the EWS grant, and only municipalities could get it, but we did it thinking it was going to do a good deed. And then because nobody wanted to work on it without the foundation being addressed, the cost got so high, because you missed years of this.
Yeah, I've been aware that it's.
Got so high that the EW said, no, we gotta cut, we're gonna cut bait right now, and we're not gonna give you any money until you fix the foundation. So that's the first thing that has to happen. And once the foundation is fixed, and we know that the building is stable, then they have to work on how it impacts the rest of the building. And make sure that it doesn't impact adversely any of the other stuff. And then they finish the interior, because all that is all dug out, and it goes from 5 feet to 12 feet in terms of that slope inside. And then assuming all goes well, the building will be stabilized and we can go ahead and historically finish the wall and keep it safe as well.
Okay, cool, great.
Any comments from you?
No?
No select board updates?
There is.
No, I meant
for that, yeah, I knew she meant with that.
Yeah.
No, for me, we are looking, for the, new town maintenance facility meetings. We didn't have one last week. Jacob and I had to go to the FEMA meeting, so, Matt had canceled that. We're looking to move the time, up to 11 on Thursdays. I know you won't be able to.
Well, related to that, I'll just jump in on that. I'm not gonna be able to be at those meetings.
That's fine.
So I'm not sure if one of you can go to them, if we want Wayne, I'm not sure if you can just.
What's the?
Well, Wayne can go because he's not a select board member, just to continue his thing, but.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of
Right,
we talked about,
right.
one of us should be the point person on that,
Yeah.
should be aware of the project, and as I've been going to those meetings through the
Right.
summer. And I was
Right,
thinking I could make it work through Zoom, through school, but it's
Yeah.
not gonna work, I'm
Yeah.
just flat out of school.
Yeah.
So.
I could go Thursdays is it every Thursday?
every other Thursday.
Yeah, probably at 11.
They're on, you can do
They're
Zoom
on Zoom.
too, because Matt does Zoom.
Oh, good.
And so
Yeah.
does Vaughn.
Oh, good. I can do that.
Yeah.
I could probably do that.
Yeah, I changed it to 11 because.
Do you want to be then? Right?
Well, let me look. What's your proposed time?
11. Next Thursday. Yeah, the 12th is our next meeting.
I don't have much that important at 11, so I could probably do it.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you
can
can
do
join
that.
on, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Just join a different Zoom meeting. On a different computer. Instead of this Zoom meeting, I'll just join.
Just volunteer.
And honestly, there's no reason I can't do both.
Spin it around.
Okay. Go, you have other stuff?
Yeah, nope.
Okay, very quickly. So you got the email with the Air Force?
No. Oh, yes.
We need to, I mean,
What?
I didn't get anything.
What can you?
Oh, that one,
Yeah,
yes.
resolution asked the Air Force to cut it out, basically.
Well, it's,
They basically said Jericho isn't really affected, but if you wanted to express support of our advocacy, to have them find some other way to
Yes.
defend our country besides the F-35s.
Right.
that's a difficult one.
And I felt like just leaving it alone, that was,
Yeah, because at one point, actually, they named a plane and we have our pictures taken with it, because we
after
had.
you, Catherine McMahon's.
It was
Fighter.
well, I got to stand by that with some of the other select board members because, and our two representatives, they named the plane Jericho. Because we had the most people in of the town
Working at the Air Guard.
who were doing at the air guard. But-
And one more, I think, public thing is maybe, not probably these executive session.
One thing we should mention, is the fact that they're actually, looking at construction in 2020 on the bridge. You want to mention that or should I?
Yeah.
It's in here.
Yeah, go right in. Sure.
Anyway, we got, because I had mentioned earlier that the tip, that they had moved this up and the tip, anyway.
Yep.
And so technically, if we have any comments, we have to have them in by September 10th.
Tomorrow. Right? No.
Yes, the 10th.
No, not
That's
next week.
Next week.
Yes.
Because right now, they've got it all ready to rock and roll in terms of, the project. And,
When are they gonna start? 2025?
yeah.
Yes.
And so the current construction is $2,621,206, including construction engineering and contingencies. Current preliminary engineering and right-of-way cost estimates total $466,000, of which they spent $424,515. For the overall project cost of $3,087,206, which is, I think, more than initially anticipated.
Does that mean our 5% share was up more?
Yes. And that's next year's dollars too. And, but they expect to put it out to bid in October. And so scheduled in the summer of 2025.
Summer.
Yeah,
Next summer.
next summer. And the road, we have to put in extensive detours because they will be closing in order to give the cheapest match. We said we'd close the road.
Yeah, otherwise it was a 10%.
We had
10% share and takes longer and
Right.
So what are we closing?
we have to close.
Brown's Trace.
Brown's Trace at that bridge. So they have to use,
Just at the bridge.
they have to use
So-
Fitzsimonds to go around.
Either
which is-
So that's why we have to get the Fitzsimonds Road Bridge
Which is
fixed.
close.
Yeah, right, right.
Wait, what bridge are you talking about?
Route
So, you know,
You know,
the Fitzsimonds Bridge that's broken?
Yeah.
The bridge right
Take them out.
before that on Brown's Trace,
Oh,
as you're
on
going
Brown's
down the
Trace.
hill and you come up, that bridge right there. From the highway department, like you're heading towards,
It
Governor Peck.
gets down by
That-
Old Dump.
yep, that bridge, yep.
Yep, it's gonna be bigger, wider.
When I first started, they just kept calling it Bridge 15 and you were just supposed to know that. Bridge 15, we like,
Dummy.
15.
Oh, Bridge 15.
Like, no, Bridge 15.
Old Pump is Bridge 40.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be annoying to people. How long do they shut it down for?
Month, at least a month. They're hoping to get it done. in a
They're
month.
hoping to get it before school starts, get it, reopened by school.
Well, great. I mean, good that it's happening.
Yeah, it's moving ahead of schedule from what was originally planned.
And we're gonna publicize the crap out of that.
Oh, you better. Oh, absolutely.
And then some signage at the
There'll
bridge on
be
both sides saying.
both
bridge
sides,
closed
yeah.
next
We
month.
were talking about, when they had done this, when they did the presentation, we were talking about putting a sign at Barber Farm Road and a sign at the end of Governor Peck Road. So that people could,
Make a choice,
Utilize-
make a good choice.
go
at that
down and
point
go
before
farm
they
to
get-
farm
before they
all
get
the way.
Stuck in terms.
yeah.
Maybe for some period of time ahead of time, this bridge will be closed
Yes.
from X to Y.
Yeah.
Starting at, not from here to here, but starting this date will be closed, plan accordingly.
Exactly, yeah.
We just need to borrow or rent one of those.
You don't?
No.
Okay, sorry.
We just need to borrow or rent one of those,
Can you control that?
those mobile,
Give us like-
those signs that you can put those big messages on.
Yep.
But yeah, our, based on that cost, it looks like our 5% went up. I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, next is, we approved the warrants and the minutes of 8:15.
I read them this time, I did not catch any mistakes.
The only mistakes I did was on line 13.
13.
They forgot to put an S on the name under Bill McMain.
Oh, all right. That's okay. Yeah. That's not even nitpicky, that's.
And the other one is there's no last name for Ann.
And who,
Ann who? That's right.
I think probably she was remote.
She should know Ann who. That's right. But that's all I had as well.
Motion to accept the minutes of August 15th with corrections.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Motion to go into executive session because premature disclosure of information would be detrimental to parties involved for reasons of personnel and legal, and I'd like to invite Paula to that executive session.
All those in favor say aye.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Aye, all.